Thank you. Appreciate that. Yep, the ink's dry. Ink's still wet. All right. I gotta put on 2 pairs of glasses. Ridiculous as it looks, it's the only way I can read at the moment. Regular city meeting of the Destin City Council, January 4th at 6:05 instead of 6 o'clock. Call to order. We've already done our Pledge of Allegiance in our special session, so we'll just do our invocation tonight with Pastor Butler.
Would you bow your heads with me, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you first of all, for making it through 2020. We thank you for a new year, a new start, and many things in our lives. Father, we thank you for the heart of a servant, for our council members. We thank you for the most beautiful place on earth to live. That we never take lightly the beauty, the benefit, the great people that you have placed around us. We ask that your will be done. We ask that everything we do be pleasing to you. This is our prayer, and our eyes for guidance and hearts are towards you. In Jesus' name, amen.
First up tonight is agenda approval. Do we have any changes from any of the council members? Hearing and seeing none at the moment, I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion.
I second.
And we shall take it to a vote. That's right. All right, we're going to have to back up. Unless, well, just go ahead. Motion passed. But for the rest of the evening, we'll do roll call votes.
Sorry.
All right.
Kevin Schmidt, yes.
Johnny?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Skip?
Yes.
Mr. Destin? Dr. Ramswell?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
Yes.
Ayes have it, so moved. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of December 21st, 2020.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Mr. Braden?
Yes.
Dr. Ramswell?
Yes.
Mr. Destin? Mr. Overdeer?
Yes.
Ms. Hebert?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Vote is unanimous, so moved. I'll entertain approval of the minutes of December 7th, 2020 regular city council meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion? I have a second. Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Hebert?
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer?
Yes.
Mr. Destin?
Yes.
Dr. Ramswell?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
Yes.
Vote is unanimous, so moved. Tonight, we have a special proclamation for the 2020 Employee of the Year. Michael's going to present the plaque. I'm going to go ahead and read Employee of the Year Award. Each year, an Employee of the Year is nominated and selected by co-workers to celebrate qualities that inspire us to achieve the city's mission. And the city's mission is, we are an organization that strives to provide a healthy, safe quality of life, balancing the needs of our residents with the expectations of our visitors, and providing open, clear, accurate communication. So the 2020 Employee of the Year Award has become a tradition and is in its 30th year. And it is a pleasure to honor Lydia Quintana of the Public Service Department as the 2020 Employee of the Year. Lydia, please come forward. Awesome. And while they're taking the pictures, I'm going to read a little bit about Lydia's achievements. Lydia began working for the city late January 2015 with the library as a custodian technician. She was responsible for the cleanliness of that entire facility. She showed her value within months of being on the job. She was extremely productive and displayed very high standards which patrons appreciated. Upon adoption of the fiscal year 18 budget, she moved to the Public Service Department, was promoted to full-time, serving the needs of the whole organization. Co-workers identified these core values with our 2020 Employee of the Year: transparency, teamwork, integrity, professionalism, and stewardship. It is in those dedicated tasks that have brought her to this point. Leah, these are but a few things written about you. You have attention to detail, is unwavering, and high standards. No matter the task, she takes it seriously. Doesn't cut any corners, do it right the first time. She's a team player, self-starter, extremely punctual. She has the ability to foresee problems and plan ahead. Takes pride in everything she does. Your mama raised you well. Lydia, on behalf of our citizens, elected officials, and staff, please accept this cash certificate and this X plaque commemorating your achievements, and you will also have a reserved parking space for the entire year. Congratulations, Lydia. Again, congratulations.
Just want to, is this on?
Yeah.
Let's pull this mask down. It's funny talking to a microphone through a mask. Lydia is our, I think, unanimously most valuable player. Everything the mayor said earlier, I just want to echo those sentiments by her fellow employees. Lydia is an amazing employee. She does an amazing job consistently, every day, without question, without too many complaints. Too many, every once in a while. And the great thing, Mr. Mayor, about that parking space is Lydia gets at work every day, gets here every day at 4 a.m. before everyone else. So she's guaranteed to get her parking space. Congratulations.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you so much for your service. It's nice that people get recognized for a job well done. All right, item number 3 is our public comment on agenda items that are not public hearings and any other matters not on the agenda. Today, I don't think we have any public hearings, so that's good. And so everyone will get 2 minutes, 3 minutes to speak on any item that's on the agenda or any item that's not, but there's a concern that you'd like to bring before the council at this time. So at this point, I will open up this public hearing process. Before we're done, I'll look to you, James, and then Ray at the end if there's any further comments. So I'll just start with folks in the room. We'll just start right here. Anybody that'd like to come up during the public comment, this is your time. Step right on up. Anybody in the middle? Come on up. Just state your name, your address, and you got 3 minutes. And hit the button because it's not on.
Greg Fisher, 35 Red Bay Court, San Jose Beach, Florida. I'm not going to talk about the moratorium or anything on here today. I'm going to talk about the Crab Island. You can hear all smiling at me right now. I'm going to be talking about the National Park Service with Crab Island. I had a call along with James Murray of Sun Venture and Solaris with Craig Coffey of the county, and I was really surprised how unaware they are with what's going on with MPS. And I attended one of the virtual webinars I guess they had last month. I'm sure some of you, I think Mr. Robadier, you were on it. One thing I learned about it is that they are not going to be discussing rentals. They're going to be more focusing on chartered vessels. This includes companies like the Sun Venture who do cruises out to Crab Island. It's kind of like an adventure tour for a half day. What concerns me about what's going on at Crab Island is they're going to be requiring charter vessels to have commercial youth authorization permits, meaning that the National Park Service has to actually give them these permits so they can operate. And it doesn't look like they're going to be giving many of these, maybe in sub 5 of them, maybe less, maybe none at all. But I know we book with my agency probably hundreds of people a day on these chartered vessels, these chartered pontoons or chartered tours. And if they remove those, I feel like this is going to cause a lot of problems with our law enforcement. Having a National Park Service said in the summer, which I thought was a joke, that they might add 1 agent. So meaning that this is going to require local officials to manage this problem, which I think is somewhat unfair. And we talked to Craig Coffey, and he seemed very concerned, and it looks like they're going to bring it up to the commissioners to discuss, but I think the council should look at this, because we should look at allowing chartered vessels to continue operate there. We have lots of captains there that can help police Crab Island, and we do not want to remove those. And what essentially I can see happening is removing those chartered vessels, and we only have so much supply of PWCs and pontoons to get to Crab Island that people are going to find other means, meaning kayaking, which is bad, paddleboarding, which is bad. They're going to find private vessels. So those rogue operators we talked about will probably come in play, because when you have a huge demand issue, people are going to create the supply one way or another. So I think the city council should discuss this. I think the city should join the county in what's going to happen if the MPS gets their way and removes the chartered vessels. So that's all I just had to say.
Anybody have any questions for Greg?
I don't have any questions. I mean, I'll just have a comment. I'll just echo what you said. The Park Service seemed very ambiguous as to what they were actually going to do. They wouldn't say exactly what they were going to do.
No, not
they
at
said
all.
they were studying it. They've been studying it. They're going to continue to study it, and then they'll tell us what they're going to do. So, I mean, it's kind of up in the air right now. It really is, and I agree. Especially with the season coming now, it'd be nice to have some input from them as what they're going to do.
I believe a solution to this would be to allow chartered vessels that meet the criteria of the MPS, which they have certain criteria such as, are they, are they certified? Do they actually provide value to the parks? Like, they're not just a party vessel. Like the Sun Venture, I believe they take people out and they tell them about the area. They talk about the National Seashore. We need more of that. And those businesses definitely should get permits. And if they're not, then they need to comply. So I think there's a lot of good that can come out of this, but if they just wipe out all chartered vessels, this would be very bad for our tourist economy. And plus, there's a lot of people that will lose their jobs, because people right now specifically want to go to the Gulf Island Seashore or Crab Island on a chartered vessel. So,
Is there any, right at the moment, any liaison? I know we don't have one other than Skip on the TDC between the county and the National Park Service. I mean, is there an avenue for discussion? I sat in on the second virtual meeting, and it sounds like it's their way or the highway type approach.
Well, when I talked to Craig Coffey from the county, he said that he has an active dialogue with Dan Brown with the MPS. So we need to have, from a city and a county level, have active dialogue with Dan Brown and make sure we're on the right foot. And now our newly formed Water Sports Association, we're going to be discussing it tomorrow at our first meeting, and we're going to be coming up with just some solutions on our own to bring to both the city and the county.
All right, thank you, Greg.
All right, you're welcome.
All right, next up, anyone? Step on, come on up, Marcy. Let her clean the table real quick.
Thank you. So I wasn't planning on speaking, but to follow the gentleman who spoke before me, Marcy Bell, 3 Gulf Breeze Court. Sorry, thank you. I just wanted to remind everyone in the room and watching that the mission of the National Park Service is to preserve unimpaired the natural and cultural resources and values of the national park system for the enjoyment, education, and inspiration of this and future generations. I've spoken here before. There are 2 zones within the National Park Service that encumber the Crab Island area of that national park, National Seashore. And we've attended all of those meetings at the county. The county did have discussions with, at that committee for the, what was it called again? The Crab Island Committee. And while I understand the industry is concerned, there's a lot more water out there than just Crab Island. So I, as a citizen, would like to implore you to remember that that is a national park and it has a mission to save our natural resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Any questions for Ms. Bell? Seeing none, we'll continue on. Anyone else want to come up to the microphone? There will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting to speak if you so choose, based on some of the things we talk about or do here tonight. At this point, No further public comment from the others. Do you have anyone? Nobody on the web? How about you, Ray? Any text messages or emails? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment period at this particular time, and we'll move right on to you, Lance, City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4A is an update on the livery workshop that was held a few weeks back. We have Mr. Louis Sanguzzi here, and we have Mr. Joey Forgione online to answer any questions that the council may have regarding this update.
One of the, I think we all received an email today from one of the livery vessel owners with some recommendations. I think they gave those recommendations during the workshop. I saw that list, that the response for staff in this briefing document. And one of the things that the individual had brought up was that if it was a new application, there should be a check mark that those requirements take place. But if nothing changed, the recommendation coming from industry would be a box that says, nothing has changed. I'm just renewing what I have. And I think that doesn't only benefit them, but it benefits our staff and I think our enforcement capabilities, because Joey's got he's got the previous applications and what they're approved for and what they're not. And if somebody signs an affidavit saying all the things I've said or done are true under the risk of legal action, then I think that we need to take a real serious look at making it user-friendly for people that are renewing year after year and nothing's changing, that you give them that option. And I'd like to hear concerns, comments from the council members as well. I think the response from the staff was legitimate, and it explained why they asked for those documentation. I'm not saying not do any of that. I'm just saying for applications of people that have been in business for a while and they state and are willing to do an affidavit that nothing has changed, that we need to simplify that aspect of it. First up is Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Mayor, and I would echo that sentiment. For the folks that have been doing it for a few years, you have the information supposedly on file that you need on them, and we need to simplify what's going on. And the affidavit, it appears they were all more than ready to sign an affidavit with whatever sanctions you thought were proper for those who did not live up to their affidavit. So I would say that that's the direction that we would recommend. I know at the workshop we couldn't make a motion, but it was pretty clear to me that that was the direction that everybody wanted to go. And if you need a motion from us to tell you that, then I'll be happy to make that motion.
Got a couple people that wish to speak, so under Robert's Rule of Order, it's always best to be making comments with a motion on the table. So I'd entertain a motion at this time for discussion purposes.
Yes, sir. I will move that the direction of the staff shall be to simplify the application for those who have previously applied and been approved, and to institute some form of affidavit to ensure compliance.
Second. I'll second. Okay.
Okay, we got multiple seconds, so that's, apparently that was a good motion. So thank you, Mr. Destin. Seeing how you made the motion and you do have is there any other comments that you'd like to make at this time before we go forward?
I'd be happy to hear the other folks' comment, but that's generally the.
Thank you very much, Skip.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, Lance, but isn't that with the direction that we're going? I mean, with this new system that we're going to have online coming in, whenever it's coming in 2021, that is going to be part of it, is that there'll be a box they check and no change and then just move on, right?
It's true, with the exception of it wouldn't apply to this year. And I think that's, I don't want to speak for Mr. Destin, but I think that's what he's saying. What staff was recommending was that we have the livery operators one more time give us the information because of our new system and put it into the system, so we are ensuring that it is correct from the very beginning of the InterGov system. But I absolutely understand what Mr. Destin said.
If I may ask a question, you have that information already if they've already applied, correct?
In most cases, that's true. Yeah, if not, then they would have to provide that information.
Okay, so I don't see the utility of making them fill it out again if you already have it.
Could I just clarify something? Part of the challenges that we've had, and I think Mr. Fogioni in court compliance could perhaps explain some of the challenges they've had from an enforcement standpoint, is that the accuracy of the information currently in our files is not all that thorough. And so we were saying, as we transition this year into our automation system, and we're actually saying this current year's application should be more thorough and more accurate so that we can capture the correct type of information so that the next time around they do reapply, our system will simply populate the screen and ask them the question, is anything changed or not? And so the purposes of the current application that we're asking for is to have good information from an enforcement purposes standpoint, which we currently do not have, and I think court can explain some of the challenges that they've had with the current information that we have in our system. May I just also remind you, we did have a discussion, 2 discussions at the last, I think it was February of last year, at which we explained and we showed some of the challenges that we had with the Livery group of what type of information we were going to change to, and I thought we had an understanding, and the application that the Court Compliance Department has produced kind of reflects that understanding with them. So we're not necessarily here asking something that they've not known for us. I think going forward, as soon as that information is captured by our system, the system will be much better. We're asking that of our developers too, who are working with us in the development process as far as DOs and so forth. So that's from our standpoint, we're saying, let's not have garbage in and garbage out at the end. Let's capture as much good information, especially from a site plan standpoint. And again, code enforcement can explain that, some of the challenges that we've had with our current site plans that we have. Joey, do you want to add anything?
Yes, thank you, Louis. So Louis hit the nail on the head. We need clean information for a clean review. We don't know exactly what they have unless they submit it. We don't know what's operating, what wheels are maneuvering. If you look down, we've actually cleaned up this application from like 5 different forms with 3 pages each. So we've kind of narrowed it down. If you jump to number 9, you need a right to conduct business. We don't know if that livery has permission to operate out there on that property. We don't know that. Do they have clarification and do they have the right to be able to do that business? You know, list of liveries. Majority of these livery companies change their vessels. They sell their vessels for 1 year or 2 years. If we don't know what vessels they have, because they have to go get another Florida state registration, then we're not going to know. So we need that information every year to make sure. And then they got to swear to it that they adhere to the rules and regulations. They will not add more vessels to that property without notifying us. So there's a bunch of facets that are intertwined in this. When you look at your property for your agreements for parking, same thing, your shared parking agreements, we don't know who's got what. So if my guys go out there to do an inspection, we have got to see, okay, there's 10 spots for this property. This is what this livery's for, then we know. But if we don't know what else they have out there, we're just shooting a needle in a haystack there. We're just not going to know. So we've got to have this information. We need the planners to be able to do a clean review for us to know what they have so we can submit their registrations. Now, if we get this clean review here, yes, this next year, once we get this information put in the eGov, next year is going to be a lot easier. They'll be able to pull their information up and it'll be right there. They'll click, it'll just be checkbox they click on. And we can go through that and, IT can talk to you about the eGov system.
Still have the floor.
And so when will this system be online? March, spring break's coming pretty quickly?
I believe we're in the process of testing the system right now. It should be up and running this year.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the date.
The IT will have a specific date, but it is going to be this year. But what we're asking for is the standard of information that we have put in the application to be submitted, and that's what's the critical part right now. So they can register anytime from November, right, of last year, Joey, up until
Correct.
March of this year. All we are saying is
Correct.
provide us the information in the manner that we're now asking for it so that it can be easily imported into the system. That's the key part.
Yep.
So it's going to be ready for spring or no?
What is going to be,
I thought that's what I understood. And I understand exactly where you guys are coming from. You need the information, garbage in, garbage out. What I find a little disturbing is we've been issuing these licenses for how long now? Couple of years? Not at all?
I believe they've been going up since 2017 is when the ordinance began.
On the new application, how many questions are there now that you didn't have information on last year, or the year before, or the year before that? Are some of these things you never asked for in the past, like parking plans or agreements between operators and the landowner? Is that stuff that you just don't have that information as we sit here tonight?
They have submitted items, but as we gotten, I came back on board and Lewis has come back on board, we've seen some items that need to be cleaned up in order to put it in the system and easier to conduct our enforcement and to make sure that all the checks and balances are even across the board.
all right. The biggest challenge we have, Mr. Mayor, is the site plans to verify parking that's available in any of the sites that they have. The quality of the site plans that we have received over the years are such that you can't tell, and the uses. And so that needs to be cleaned up so that we have definitive information as far as uses and number of parking spaces that are associated with each of the uses.
Thank you, Louis. Mr. Braden, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, that's the thing that bothers me or concerns me is when I had a meeting with staff, I don't know, maybe a year ago, there were several documents in different folders that were just a flat-out lie. So just to give them the opportunity to say, I lied then, I'm lying now, so nothing's changed. I'm still lying. With documentations that's in the application. That needs to be cleaned up. But what really concerns me is if in fact when the InterGov comes online and we have people that submit their application and they're all still using the same parking lot or the same parking plan, and there's 5, 10, 15, 20 businesses on one piece of property, it's basically going to be first come, first serve. The first 2 or 3 guys that come in and submit their application and claim this parking lot is theirs, and everybody else that's running late is not going to have any parking, and they're going to be put out of business. So, I don't know, I'm concerned for you guys. It's going to be the first ones to get their applications in and get them approved. Because I know and staff knows for a fact that there are, and I've talked to some of you guys, and you guys know that there's multiple guys claiming the same parking lots as their parking, and it's going to come to a head. Yeah, I mean, I'm with staff. They need to, submit your paperwork, and hopefully it's true and accurate. I don't know what the penalty's going to be if it's not, because I've been told we can't go to livery vessel owner unless he owns the property. We have to go to the property owner for any type of enforcement. I don't know. I see it getting ugly, with all that going on. But yeah, we need. Yeah, I'm with the staff. They need to get some true and accurate information on these companies so they can put it in the system and try to start clean and fresh.
Thank you, sir. Kevin, then you, Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Based on what Mr. Ronnie said here, Councilman Braden, how does it work for the shared parking plan? Let's just, if I could, for an example, a restaurant, an office, and a livery vessel owner, if they're all sharing a property, he makes it sound like it's by submission of, I guess, application maybe, but is that how it works? Or do you take the landowner's plan, or does each individual, we know the livery vessel has to do one, but does each individual business owner have to submit? How does that work?
I'll let Tracy, one of our planners, who's
I'll
in the
be happy
trenches,
to-
explain that.
I'll be happy to answer that question. So when we review a permit application, we're looking at the site itself, correct? We're going to say how many, parking spaces do you have on site, but also we need to know the uses. So let's say you have a 1,000 square foot restaurant, I think it's a 75 square foot requirement for restaurants. So then you would take that category, quantify that, and you would determine that that is what is needed for the restaurant on your site. So you'd say, okay, I need 10 spaces for my restaurant to operate. It's only open during the day. So these 10 are going to be for my restaurant. So then let's say on that business, you also have a livery. And that livery has X amount of boats, and they also need 10 spaces. But let's say on your site, you only have 25. So, that livery can get the 10, and then you have 5 left over, right? So then that 5 that's left over can either be for the property owner, for, extra uses to support what the primary use is on that property, or it can be for, general access in addition to, if the livery needs it. But oftentimes what we're seeing with these properties is not only do you have restaurant, retail, livery, parasail, charter boat, all of these different uses. So what happens is, oftentimes they do work it out pretty good to where, the livery is a day job. So, if your restaurant is open at night, your parking isn't being compromised, right? So you have this whole lot that can be used for your daytime activities. But unfortunately, whenever you have a restaurant that's open day and night, those parking spaces have to be utilized to support that use. So you can't double book, for a lack of better term, parking spaces that are being utilized for 2 businesses at the same time during the day, if that makes...
Yeah, that makes sense. So if a restaurant is coming onto a property and they submit an application for a review, are they submitting the entire properties, or are they just saying, here's my restaurant that operates from 8 to midnight and we only need 10 spots. Now you go, city staff, look at all the other things that are happening on this parking lot, or do they have to provide all of that information?
From a shared parking agreement, from the property owner's position, we need to know essentially what's their primary use, what uses they're leasing, and then how many spaces they have.
I'm talking about from the leasee, the restaurant that's got a lease position.
From the leasee, we, as far as the shared parking, we don't need, all we need is that agreement, right? That the property owner says, hey, I have enough parking to support your business, and I'm willing to work, have a contract with you to operate. And I think it's important to understand that if property owners are going to go into contracts with businesses to provide spaces for their operation, then they should do so.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a double booking type of
Definitely.
scenario.
And that last point that you just made it sounds like it's kind of some of the issues that we're having with livery vessel parking, that if a restaurant can apply for an application, we have to leave it up to the business owner to the contract that they're signing with the leasee that it's acceptable use or whatever. But it sounds like we're doing something different with the livery vessels. But a couple other questions, sir, if you don't mind. Mr. Forgione, do you know how many pending applications we have for this coming season on the applications for renewals or just applications in general?
Sure, we received 3 applications, but they submitted the old application, not the 2021 new applications.
Okay.
So they have got to submit the 2021s.
Gotcha. I want to echo, Councilman Destin here as well. I'll share as well. I know I'm just starting this job here, but it is frustrating that we did spend a lot of time at that workshop. So did the citizens, and I felt that the direction was to go for a new renewal process for an affidavit. So I'm also learning that we have to give very clear directives to staff, I guess, if that's what we're truly wanting. So definitely a learning point for me. I do hear that there's issues with the information that we have currently, but I will throw this out there, and I'm going to see if we could possibly do an amended motion I can share. But even if we put this current process in place this season, as the director is asking, the chances of, and I could be wrong, but y'all can correct me, of reviewing all these applications for this season are probably going to be pretty hard to review and approve to give all these applicants their medallions for 2021. So we're probably going to spend most of the season in limbo and just telling them, thank you for submitting, please stand by until we finish the review. Maybe that's wrong, but I feel like if we had last year people getting their medallions in November and December, or just now, that, basically we have 0 applications on file right now for 2021, is what Mr. Forgione just said. So I was just thinking we could add an amended motion, Mr. Destin, to have that notice of affidavit on there. And that it says, though, a stipulation that your paperwork from last year is still going to be reviewed. And during this review, if it's not up to code or if it doesn't meet the requirements that staff needs to properly review, approve this stuff, that you're going to have 90 days to submit it to us. I don't think we're going to go wrong by giving them that option if the majority of these owners can successfully say that they, have one owner that's had an engineer design his parking plan. He's good to go, And if there's a bad one out there, Mr. Braden, with the folder last year, I hear you, but I don't think we're going to stop them this season, no matter what thing we put in place. So one possibility, if we could entertain as amended motion to put a stipulation on that notice of waiver to, it's going to be reviewed, and if found to be in wrong or non-compliance, you're still going to have to submit an official parking plan or an official agreement with the staff, with your business owner. So just some thoughts there.
And I understand exactly the position staff's in. What needs to be done is we need to have a parking review done for each site these are located at. In the past, we contracted that out. I think the last firm we used is Renaissance Planning. They did parking reviews, and the only way we can get it done in a timely fashion is probably to do that again, because if we tell staff you have to do all that between now and March, they won't be able to do anything else. So I would suggest that they look at, but without a parking review of each site, the problem Mr. Braden's talking about is a problem. Now, I would modify or change my motion to direct that the simplification in the affidavit system be for next year. But I see that we're still in quite a dilemma here when we have people who are in business who won't have a license to be in business in a timely fashion. And
That's why I think your motion should stand as it is for right now. Let's finish having discussion and we'll vote on that one, because I understand what Mr. Smith's saying, but
yep.
your point just now is well taken.
But if we tell them they have to have this implemented by March, it's impossible. They can't do it. And so, more discussion is probably warranted.
I've got 2 people that would like to, 3 people that would like to add to that, a couple of them for their second
Absolutely.
time. But that's okay. Ms. Aber.
Thank you, Mayor. And I was trying to get in, Kevin got in before me. There's all these lit up over here. I kind of want to I was having the same mindset as Kevin. I'm new, y'all have put me up here, but the frustration that I've heard from the livery owners is, this is dragging out. This is taking way too long. These people are trying to run a business, and they're trying to get their information in, and then they're told that this isn't the right information, we need more, and then we told them at a livery meeting, we're going to simplify it, and you're going to say, nothing's changed, let's move on. sure we didn't make that very clear that it was for next year, 2022. Even though it says 2021, it's really not until next year. So right now, we have all these folks that are trying to do the right thing, and it's taking a lot more time, and it's going to drag out, and we're in the middle of, it's January. March is going to be here before you know it, and the season's going to be in high gear, and the city doesn't slow down. Your jobs, I've seen the things that just keep rolling in on y'all, so it's not like, oh, we got nothing to do, we'll just work on just the livery vessels for the next 5 weeks so that everybody has their medallions on the 1st of March and we're all happy campers. We got to find a happy medium here, because our businesses that bring people to Destin are frustrated right now trying to do what they think the city wants them to do, get the information out, clarify they got parking, clarify they've got their right authorized livery vessels, they're not buying more, they're not selling off, they're trying to maintain. I just feel like there's a lot of bad information. It's not clear, especially to those owners that need to get things going. You know, they've been cleaning them up and setting them up and getting them ready to get back on the water, and there's still sort of like a non-answer. And like, you know, Mr. Schmidt said, okay, we need to get a parking thing done. Like Dewey says, get a study done so we know how much parking. And so if they're at this business that doesn't open until 5 p.m. and they've got the whole parking lot of 20 spots, then that's great. That's that parking plan. But there's just so many moving parts. I feel frustrated for the owners, but I understand the business of the city and the paperwork that's needed with this new system that we've now got in place. So I'm in favor of doing what's the best thing, and apparently it will be to try and work this for the next application, but certainly put it out there to a company to do the parking survey.
We'll get to have our say here with a vote in just a second. I got Ms. Ramswell, who is the first time speaker, and then I've got Mr. Destin, Mr. Braden. We'll just finish up with those three, and then we'll go ahead and take this to a vote. Go ahead, Dr. Ramswell.
Thank you. So question for staff. We're talking about doing the full package registration for the livery vessel owners. How often do we do it, some sort of similar registration for businesses and restaurants? Is that annually as well?
Businesses and restaurants register with their BTRs, their annual business tax receipts. Liveries are a little different. They're similar to the short-term rental program. They have to register each year to maintain their registration.
So when the businesses and restaurants submit their BTRs, do they submit any sort of parking plan?
So with the restaurants, when they're developed under development order, the parking is already budgeted into their development. So per that square footage that they've been approved for, they're required to apply or to provide that much, if not more, parking. So their parking requirement is already established up front.
So when somebody, take me through the process. Let's say that I own a livery vessel company and I'm submitting my application to you, and I say that I'm using Smith's parking lot and I have 7 spaces. What do you do?
So when we receive, well, planning's role with the livery registration is solely for parking review. So when we receive a parking plan, we look at the parcel, what the existing uses are, what the primary use is, and what the proposed uses or what the existing uses are. Then we take into account all those uses. We figure out how much parking is required based on those uses. We then take into account too the day and night difference, like I spoke to in a previous discussion. Once all of that information is taken into account, we look at the site plan and we're able to tell, usually for the most part, how many spaces they have available, who has what, and how that site works. I think where we have an issue with our site plan review is oftentimes, or not oftentimes, but we have had site plans in the past, and we still have these site plans on file currently for properties that are hand-drawn, that aren't drawn to scale. We don't, we have certain parking requirements. 9 by 19 is our parking space. So we have to have so many 9 by 19 parking spaces on site. So in order to be able to verify those spaces and quantify what is needed, we need it to be dimensioned. And unfortunately, in some cases, they're not.
Thank you for that explanation. And this is sort of where I'm going with this, is that if somebody has had some remodeling done or they've changed their use, maybe it's something that they've reconfigured something, the city might not necessarily have a record of that. Is that correct?
Well, we actually have a new process that we started January of last year. It's already 2021. So January 1 of 2020, we initiated our change of use application. So if an application, or for instance, if a BTR is submitted to us and we look at the address and we say, oh, at this address previously there was a nail salon and now they want to put a restaurant. That's a change of use. So then we would ask them to provide a site plan, and we want to make sure that we can verify their parking for their use. Because really, if it's in a strip mall, that's where it's even more vital, because you have all these separate different uses that you need to make sure are being their uses are being accommodated. The parking is accommodating for the use, if that makes sense.
It does. And so what I'm recognizing is that there are clearly businesses out there that have not been updated on our system or in our processes for whatever reason, and we may not be sure exactly how many spaces they have. So if somebody's coming in and saying, I'm using 7 spaces at Smith's, you may have a drawing from 1989 that shows they only have 14 spaces, but wow, they've actually, added another wing to the restaurant, and now they've got this other parking lot and they actually have 40 space. So my point being that this almost seems like a process that needs to be done in conjunction with what Mr. Destin was mentioning, an overall parking study, just to make sure that everything is on the same page and we're not doing like this element before we're doing the other element, and then you got to look at it again. So that's sort of where I was going with this. And the other thought I had is, if I understood Mr. Zunguze correctly, you were saying that the goal was for this year to get a full application packet so that everybody's starting fresh, you know where everybody is, it can go into the system, we know exactly where everyone is. And then subsequent years, they would be permitted to just file an affidavit saying everything is the same, here's my new registration. Is that correct?
Correct. And what will happen is we'll have captured all that information, and it will show up on their screen, and all they need to do is either update anything that has changed or confirm that everything is still the same.
So one thing I did not recognize and that we sort of went over tonight is that we're talking not about permits for this year, we're talking about 22? Is that correct?
No, we're talking about permits for this year.
We are talking about permits for this year.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought, and somebody said something that made me think that's not where we were. Okay.
That's what we were intending, to capture good information going forward from this year.
Okay, and so what I'm talking about in terms of trying to not get the cart before the horse, building on the idea of a parking study, seeing that that is something that we can't do right now, clearly, and building off the comment Mr. Destin stated, which was, let's maybe hold off on this until we can get a parking study done and then do the horse before the cart, so to speak. Does that sound feasible and like something that could be done and would actually make sense and work for everyone, and just hold off on them having to do all that for this year?
That certainly is council's prerogative. What we were thinking, as far as the overall parking study for the harbor is concerned, we had built it in the harbor capacity study. For me, I think that's one of the most critical land use issues that we have in the city, parking as a whole. And that area of the city is the most critical one that I had built in the capacity to do a study for the harbor.
And so build that into the harbor study, harbor capacity study, which we're going to discuss next. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, that's already built into it. But obviously, if the city council chooses to do something different, we can simply make an amendment to that.
All right?
Okay, thank you so much for indulging on my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Ranswell. Mr. Braden? Last one after
Thank-
that. Dewey, you took your name off, right? Okay, after Mr. Braden, we'll go ahead and take it to a vote. Okay.
The only thing that I was thinking while I was listening to everybody speak was if we don't give the staff what they're asking us to give them to perform the tasks that we expect them to do, then we can't expect them to do it, or we can't get upset at them because we gave them half the tools to do the job with. If not, we need to do, if we're not going to do it, then we need to give them the authority to hire an outside contractor or source to help them get the job done. Because I see us doing that, quite often, is give the staff half or 2/3 of what they're asking for and then still expect them to do the job. So whatever the motion is, I forget what it is, but whatever it is, if it's not, then we sure can't expect them to do that job.
We'll reread it before we take a vote.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Okay, I've got Mr. Destin, then our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify, I was not suggesting an overall parking study, because I know that's going to be part of the harbor study. I was suggesting that you need to do a parking analysis of each of the sites where the livery vessels are located, otherwise you don't know what's there. Now, my big question is to the staff is, so what are we going to do for these folks so they can be in business with or without a license come spring break?
I might have a suggestion for you on that, if I could just jump in. Thinking about the concerns that have been expressed, if we were to allow this one last year before we implement the affidavits, as staff is wanting to do, would it address council's concerns to extend for this year only the time that they can apply, without penalty, by extending it for 2 months or something, like, let's say instead of the end of February, they have until May?
And that's
Just to get it up so that next year, it's a much more efficient, affidavit process.
That seems like a reasonable way to go if staff thinks that they can implement that. What we don't want to do is put these people in a position where they can't operate because they're violating our rules. So I will modify the motion to implement the simplified affidavit that we spoke of earlier in the 22 season. In other words, next year, that'll give the staff the opportunity to get the information they think they need this year, and we'll extend the date till, as Ms. Kopp suggested, May. And that'll be the modified motion.
Okay, and
Second
is that
stands.
okay with a second? All right, so we have a modified motion. Lance, Kevin, unless it's something new, I'm going to go ahead and bring it to a vote.
Well, it's confusing because,
No, it's not.
yeah, it is confusing, sir. Because they just extended the application till May, I think, right? That's what you're proposing, but now we're gonna have the whole season, people are gonna be operating while it's being reviewed. So what's the difference between that and, that sounds worse to me personally, because now we're giving them more time for the renegades to just break the law, because they're not even gonna get the application until May possibly. So I'm fine with this extensive application. I think this is a great application because we're going to give the staff amazing documents. But if we keep the current deadline as is and let the certain renewals check that box, staff's still going to come to them in April or May or June and say, you said you gave us your parking plan and we just checked the file and it's not there. So now you have 30 days to give it to us.
What
I
about
just-
a
it's just
temporary
confusing.
permit?
Would you like to address that, Ms. Kopp, that concern?
Yeah, because staff has been talking with these stakeholders and livery vessel owners, and will continue talking to them. It's not like staff is going to wait until the end of the application period to tell them what's missing and what's needed. They may be operating, but they will be working towards getting the information in throughout that time period, and staff will be communicating with them and working with them during that time period. So it's not like, telling them you have more time to apply and you can do whatever you want in the meantime. It's operate under the city codes, but we will work with you in gathering the information and in explaining the information you're missing and what we need.
What about a temporary permit that could be issued for 30 days upon receipt of an application? And then at the end of that 30 days, hopefully the real permit application has been approved, and if not, we reissue another temporary. Is that something that might work?
Sounds like more paperwork to me, huh, Louis? I think,
Mayor, didn't we have about 2 meetings ago, we had a motion and it passed to extend their time? Was it too much to get their applications in? Was that correct? Was that correct? And when?
What we did,
Lance, would you like to address that?
Yeah, that was to push it back to November 1st through February 28th as the application period. So it extended the period.
But it only extended it till February.
Currently February 28th.
And we don't have any applications in currently?
Not with the current forms. So you're
But
correct.
that's not an extension. That was, we started accepting them earlier. It was always, we always accepted them through February 28th.
They just allowed them to start earlier, and they still haven't started earlier. So,
Probably what's beneficial to them would be giving them more time if we're asking for more information. But again, that doesn't mean that we wait until the end of the time period to start working with them. I think staff would need to start immediately or continue, because in several cases, they're already started.
okay, here's how we're going to play this one. I want to give Lance an opportunity to speak, and then we're going to take this to a vote. And if somebody wants to do a different motion for further comment, let's wait and see if this present motion, which I think is a fair and equitable motion, I don't get to vote on it, but we'll take a vote on that. And then if we need to go further, we will at that time. Lance, you were up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make sure that we had correct information out there on a few points before you guys voted. So I'm going to depend on Joey here. So Joey, I'm going to throw you some questions real quick, make sure I'm thinking about this correctly. First question is, I think when we had this discussion a couple weeks ago, we just determined that there were approximately, and not exactly, but approximately 20-ish livery companies that we would be dealing with. Is that correct?
correct, there's approximately 20.
Okay. Knowing that, and knowing that, like we just stated, that we changed the application period to November 1 through February 28th. I know you, and I know that you wouldn't go along with that unless you thought that you could get permits issued during that time frame in a timely manner. So tell us if the 28th of February is the deadline, and I'm not saying we can't change it, but using that because that's what it currently is, how long in your mind did you think it was going to take you to fulfill all those applications? I mean, we're talking about approximately 20.
Well, my thinking was when we first changed the ordinance to go to November 1, it gave them 2 extra months. Well, now they've sat for 2 months and haven't applied. 3 of them applied with wrong information, wrong application. So now all these guys are 2 months behind. So let's give them 2 months. That gives them 4 months. And I think as long as we start getting our information in, we can work with them, because Code's job is we collect the data. We make sure that what they've submitted is on that checklist. Like you see, the 2 of the pages are just code enforcement stuff. This is what you need. Bam, 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 down the line. If they have all that, we ship it over. We send it over to planning. They can do a review, pump it out. We go do our inspections. Building does their inspection, make sure they're ADA bathrooms. Then we go ahead and give them their stickers. We do the last inspection with their stickers, make sure they're where they're supposed to be. And they're good to go. It's pretty simple. They just got to submit the documentation we need.
All right.
That's the biggest thing.
Let me follow up on that real quick, Joey. If tomorrow you got 20 applications, and I'm not looking for an exact number, how long do you think it would take your staff to get those 20 applications processed and the permits issued?
Let's say 20 of them came in. I can have Sharon start getting all the data. She can knock out fairly quickly, making sure all the information, as long as it's all there, make sure all the information's there. She hands it to Dave, he goes through it, and it goes right over to planning.
But I think the point is if the information is all there. Not to interrupt, I just want to point that out because that's where potentially the extra 2 months could help. Because when staff tells them we're missing X, Y, and Z, those extra 2 months allow you to continue operating while we're gathering that information. So I just wanted to jump in with.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct, because a lot of times if we get the submission and it's wrong, just like the short-term rentals, now we got to go into the phone call status. Sharon's got to try and reach out to them, email. We send them, hey, we need this and this. It may take a day or two for them to respond. Oh, what do I need? And it's the back and forth thing that we go through.
All right, Joey, let me rephrase that. You received 20 applications, and of those 20 applications, 15 of them have been completed. The Ts are crossed and the Is are dotted, because I'm not opposed to extending the application deadline. I don't want you to think I am. I just am trying to get an idea how long it would take to process those applications.
I can't speak for planning because I don't know their side of it, how long it could take them, but code can rack them out pretty quickly. So, I think 15 we can do in a good 30 days, just off the top of my head. I think the 2 months would be right on target.
I can speak for the planning department in our review. If we receive a complete package, a clear site dimension site plan, and we have the existing uses, we can turn a parking review around pretty quickly. But it's like Joey said, when we don't have all the information, it causes some problems.
So the last thing I just want to clarify is, and we just mentioned the parking plans again. The parking plans are to be provided, and this is a question. Parking plans are to be provided by the property owner. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
All right. So if the property owner is also the livery company, then that's going to be a non-issue. It's only when the livery company is renting from another property owner where we may have an issue where they're not providing the information you need.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on some of those before you guys voted. Thank you.
All right.
Mayor, if I may have one more comment.
Okay, because we're getting into round 3. That's the only reason I want to take it to a vote.
Each time we get new information, Mayor, then.
Yeah, I understand that portion of it too.
And the devil's in the details here. I don't know how many of you have tried to hire an engineering firm to do a parking drawing lately, month, if you can get them to do it at all. And that's the problem, and that's the reason I'm saying give the extension to May. And to Mr. Schmidt's question, extending it to May is not really going to give them a big advantage because the bulk of their season is after May. If they can get it done by May and get shut down, they're out of business for the summer. It gives us an opportunity to pursue all of these little details that staff is talking about. I just talked to a lady who said she can't get a permit to remodel her dock that was applied 2 months ago. Perhaps she didn't turn in her information like she should have. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm just telling you, this process takes a lot longer because of those very moving parts. And to extend it to May, I think is going to be reasonable, give them time to get through it, and still won't give them the advantage of where they could operate in the summer where they make the bulk of their money without complying. But if they're not done by May, they're shut down for the summer season. And thank you, Mayor, for that.
All right, we got a motion on the floor. Ray, would you like to read it? We're going to take this to a vote, and if somebody wants to make a subsequent motion, if this motion fails, we'll entertain it at that time. Go ahead, Ray.
Okay, I hope I have the right motion here.
Yeah, we've been throwing you, it's a moving target.
Okay. To simplify the permit application process for livery operators who have previously applied for and received permit app approval, to institute a simplified affidavit system in the renewal application process, with the simplification in the affidavit system being effective next year, and to extend the application deadline to May.
That is what I believe is correct. Mr. Destin, you made the motion. All right. Even though I see further comment, I'm going to go ahead and call this to a vote. We have a motion, we have a second. Please vote. Oh, that's right, Johnny's not here. Dang it. See, y'all wore me down that time. All right, let's start with Mr. Smith.
Can you repeat that motion, please? This is we're getting so much information here and it's pretty confusing.
Okay. To simplify the permit application process for livery operators who have previously applied for and received permit approval, to institute a simplified affidavit system in the renewal application process, with a simplification in the affidavit system being in effect next year, and to extend the application deadline to May.
So the only thing we're changing is extending the deadline and changing something for next year, basically, right?
The motion is as stated. Yeah, your vote.
Okay.
Clarity is important.
Yeah, I mean, please, I
Want me to start at the
really
other
don't
end?
understand why we're also
Kevin, I'll start at the other end.
quieting everybody as well, but,
I'll start at the other end if you'd like a moment to think about it.
okay, that's fine. I'm
All
just
right.
trying to process this.
No problem. Mr. Braden?
I mean, I think this is indicative of where we're feeling right now. I mean, if we're having this much trouble trying to decide how to vote,
Well, it's just some motion's been made, and if that's not the route we want to take, we'll vote no. If it is, vote yes. And then if it's defeated, then we can make a subsequent motion and have further discussion. Otherwise, we could stay here and talk about this particular motion for a while. So it's okay to vote a motion up or down and then reinstitute another motion in a discussion. But the motion as stated is what we're voting on at this time, at this moment. So I'm calling it to a vote.
I just don't want to move forward thinking this is, or all we're doing is extending the application time for them to actually put it in. It's not for them to get their medallions and stuff by May. It's just giving them that time to get their application in, and that's all we've come out of this workshop. It seems like to me that.
Just for clarity, because there is concern, I'm going to have Ray reread the motion one more time, okay? Just listen to the motion, and then we will take a roll call vote, okay? Just for clarity.
Mayor, can I add one thing before Ray reads it for them to keep in mind while they listen? That's the only change is not the extension. The other change is you all are voting to simplify the application process as as many of the stakeholders in the profession wanted. You are voting yes for the affidavit to be utilized in the future. You are just not voting to start that in 2021. You're voting to start that next year. For 2021, the application date is changing to allow staff to work with them to get in the information that some of the livery vessel stakeholders have indicated has been cumbersome for them. So we're giving them that extra time. But we are saying in 2022, the affidavit will be used and not this cumbersome process when there are no changes.
Thank you very much for the clarity.
Mr. Mayor, if I'm out of line, I apologize, but just Mr. Forgione might not like it or staff might not like it, but a deadline doesn't mean you can wait until the day before a deadline to turn your paperwork. So, I mean, just because we gave them 2 extra months and they haven't done it yet, I mean, they're not penalized because they're waiting until February 28th or now April 30th. I mean, it still doesn't make much sense that we're about to do nothing besides extend something for 2 more months.
I think, Mr. Smith, you're getting hung up on the extension and the reason for it. I don't think Mr. Forgione mentioned any issue with them not acting. When you don't turn in your application, no matter what you're doing, that means you get your results later. That's all that means, okay? The council gave them an opportunity to get their packages in too much early. Industry said they just haven't done it yet.
You don't have to.
But because of the time constraints of the information needed, the motion is to allow them a little bit more time to get their applications in and give our staff the opportunity to get them completed. It doesn't change anything, you know, and if you don't like the motion as read, just vote no, okay? So I got to call it to a vote, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yes.
Mr. Braden, Dr. Ranswell,
No.
Mr. Destin.
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer,
Yes.
Ms. Abear,
Yes.
Mr. King. Unmute
Yes.
yourself, sir. Yes?
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
No.
The vote is 5-2. Ayes have it, so moved. Moving on.
Mr. Mayor, item 4B is with regards to the harbor capacity study steering committee and the reappointment or appointment of members to that committee. And I'm going to turn it over to the city attorney.
Thanks, Lance. Yeah, this is kind of a tag-along item to the item we just had. As y'all are aware, we have a harbor capacity study being done, which will analyze the carrying capacity of the harbor, associating parking and other elements. Staff's idea was, as part of this process, to have a steering committee be in place that would sort of help guide that process and be able to gather and synthesize information at public meetings and bring that information forth to the council. Staff had 6 categories of stakeholders that they wanted in particular to see related to the harbor businesses, mostly in the harbor area. The previous council, before the election, had filled all 8 seats with the mayor also nominating a member. Of course, 4 of those council members have since left, and so those 4 seats are now vacant, and we need 4 new nominations and subsequent appointments from the new council members today.
And do we want to, we'll vote on each nominee individually?
Yeah, you can do it that way, or we can do it as a slate, as we did it with a lot of the other meetings, so either way is fine.
Just for a consensus, would you like to do that individually, folks, or would you just let just vote on the slate?
Ray, do you know the answer to that question?
I've not spoken to any of them.
That's probably why we need probably to do it one at a time, and then if somebody that got volunteered without knowledge can raise their hand and we can redo this again at a later date.
Lewis can correct me if I'm wrong too, but I believe that we're anticipating the study beginning in March, so if council wanted, we could probably reopen another application period for a brief period of time. I would ask that that doesn't go too long so that we can get this committee in place in time for the beginning of that study, which is scheduled to begin in March. Lewis, I just want to confirm that is something that is a possibility.
Yes, certainly we can reopen it. We were hoping to, from a schedule standpoint, the study is starting in March. The survey has been approved by the federal government, and we'd like to share that survey with the committee, so at least they're aware of what the questions are going to be. So time is of essence for us. So whichever way you handle it, we just want you to be sensitive to that issue.
So if you do reopen, maybe it would only be for like a 2-week window so that we could bring it back in the next council meeting, for instance, or at least at the first February meeting at the latest, I would say.
Yeah, I think we need to do it at the next meeting, unless you guys want to go ahead and nominate or renominate, and then if anybody says, I don't want to do it, then we can readdress that at the next council meeting for that individual slot.
We got 2 individuals in the public tonight. We could ask if they're still interested.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and, do you want to actually ask if they're here? I'm assuming they want to be
Well, I'm
here.
assuming it's just the 4 of us potentially that need to.
That's
I
correct.
have 1, so
Yeah.
already, and there's only 3, and there's 2 here, but I don't know, just a thought.
Rodney, what's your thought?
I just know staff has told us they wanted to keep the same, if they could, keep the same committee, so this thing didn't slow down. kept the ball
Let's vote on
rolling.
it tonight then. Let's go ahead and we'll take one person at a time. Mr. Destin, you're up.
I'll re-nominate the person that was serving under my seat before, and
Which would have been Mr.
was that Mr. Stevens? John?
Parker had nominated Mr. Stevens,
Yeah.
so.
And if that group, all of them want to re-up,
Well, let's just do Mr. Stevens. We'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Destin has nominated Mr. Stevens. Mr. Braden?
Yes.
Dr. Ramswell?
Yes.
Mr. Destin?
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer?
Yes.
Ms. Aber?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
And Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Okay, next up, Ms. Aber.
Mary Ann Wines is the marina owner.
Good, we actually need seconds for these because these are motions, so.
Okay, go ahead.
I make a motion, Mary Ann Wines is the marina owner.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, and I'll also second Mr. Destin's from earlier. Can we do both at the same time?
What I was going to say is maybe we could go back and redo Mr. Destin's at the end here.
All right, well then, because I blew Robert's rules, we will revisit Mr. Destin's motion with a second.
My suggestion is, let's go, we've got another motion on the floor. Let's go ahead and do this one. We can go back to Mr. Destin's after this motion, or at the end, however y'all would prefer it.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Aber?
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer?
Yes.
Mr. Destin? Dr. Ramswell?
I just have a question. Are we still in active litigation, and is that something that
That's what the
should be
corporation.
considered?
That's with Fishing Fleet Incorporated.
We do have active litigation with the Destin Fishing Fleet, yes.
Is that a conflict to appoint someone that's actively suing the city to a board?
I believe it's a legal conflict. Now, whether in the colloquial sense, is it a conflict? I think that's the prerogative of this council to decide.
Was she on the board before?
No.
She was not.
Sorry.
No, I know. I mean, I'm just wondering if we should vote over again, but, I mean...
What's your recommendation, Kyle?
If we want to revote it, we need a motion essentially to take it, to reopen the motion and then revote it, which would have to be a separate motion that would have to
Right,
pass.
and
then
take
we'd go back to the-
supermajority, right?
Yeah, it would take four, it'd take a simple majority to go back and open it again.
You can make that motion. If you don't.
I would suggest we finish this first, and then we can go back and
All right.
reopen it. And and this is essentially one of the winning side members would have to be the one.
Got it.
So a winning side member would be the one to...
Yeah, that's right.
That's the way it goes.
Well, yes.
Mr. Braden?
No.
Ayes have it, so moved.
So since I was on the winning side, should we discuss whether it's
You can make a motion,
okay?
right?
What I would suggest to do this in one fell swoop, it'd be a motion just to rescind the previous vote at this time.
I believe that would be reconsidered.
Right. I think you're right, actually. Reconsider, Dewey.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and make a motion to reconsider in lieu of the fact that this is someone with an active lawsuit against the city.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Mr. Smith?
No.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Aber?
No.
Mr. Overdeer?
No.
Mr. Destin? Ms. Ramswell?
Yes.
Dr. Ramswell, I'm sorry. And Mr. Braden?
Yes.
4-3, motion passes. So that's been rescinded.
So now Teresa's nomination is
Void.
yes.
So
So
now-
if Teresa has a new nomination this time, then.
There are only 3 marina owners, Peter Boss, Mary Ann Wines, who's the other?
So out of the initial applicants, the marina, and the reason Teresa's asking this question is because one of the categories that staff and the attorneys asked that was it be included in the committee is a marina owner. Out of the initial applicants, there were 2 marina owners that applied, Eddie Morgan and Claude Perry. So I would suggest to nominate from one of those 2. Or the direction you're going, Teresa, yeah.
Eddie. I nominate Eddie Morgan?
Second.
Any comment? Mr. Braden?
Yes.
Dr. Ramswell?
Yes.
Mr. Destin? Mr. Overdeer?
Yes.
Mr. Aber?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
You look so relaxed. Mr. Schmidt? Yes. Yes.
We're very jealous, Johnny.
Sure. I'd like to nominate Mr. Ian Blaze, citizen and business owner on the harbor.
We have a nomination.
Second.
And I got a second. Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Aber?
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer?
Yes.
Mr. Destin? Dr. Ramswell?
Yes.
And Mr. Braden?
Yes.
Ayes have it, so moved. There's your panel.
Let's redo Dewey's real quick, just so that we can get that second in. Sorry, Mayor, I don't want to be a stickler, but here I am.
Yes, you are. You're not
That's what
sorry.
you pay me. That's
either.
what you pay me to do.
You're not sorry. Mr. Destin?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Braden?
Yes.
Dr. Ramswell?
Yes.
Mr. Destin? Mr. Overdeer?
Yes.
Ms. Aber?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes.
And Mr. Smith?
Yes.
So.
You still got Johnny, too.
Yeah,
Huh?
Mr. King has to make a nomination.
That's right. Mr. King?
I believe he's filled out his application. He's gonna nominate Patrick Wilson.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second.
What was
Ray?
that name again, sir? Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson.
Can you tell us who Patrick Wilson is?
Yeah, Patrick's he's a real estate guy in Destin. He's
Fair enough.
I mean, would you want to know more about him? I mean,
No, I just did.
he's a neighbor of mine, a friend.
Yeah, no, that's
Loves
fine.
Destin.
That's all I need. Thank you.
We're good. We're good, Johnny. We will start with Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Aber?
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer?
Yes.
Mr. Destin? Dr. Ramswell?
Yes.
And Mr. Braden?
Yes.
There you have a panel, Mr. Bowman.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That was quick and painless, right?
So let's see, I don't think my New Year's resolution's going down the tubes here. Go ahead, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Finally, a few announcements. The city facilities will be closed on Monday, January the 18th, in observance of Martin Luther King Day. For that reason, our next city council meeting will be held on Tuesday, January 19th, 2021, at 6 p.m. in this room. Also, staff, just so you know, staff intends to bring the revised complaint procedures to council on the January 19th for council's review. And don't be surprised if you see activity on the Royal Melbourne Heritage Park site sometime this week. So we had I couldn't hear you.
Take pictures. We shall record it and put it on our Facebook pages. All right. We have no public hearings tonight. Hallelujah. And so we'll move right into item 6, which is consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this
Make a
time.
motion to approve the
I'll
consent
second
agenda.
that.
I got a motion. I have a second. Any comments? Seeing none, let's take a vote. Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Aber?
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer?
Yes.
Mr. Destin? Yes. Dr. Ramswell?
Yes.
And Mr. Braden?
Yes.
So moved. The vote is unanimous. All right, and now we'll move on to our final item outside of our public comment, which will come at the very, very end. Mr. Braden.
Thank you, Mayor. First question is for staff. How much have we spent so far on the InterGov new software?
I don't know how much we've spent to date, but I believe the contract is around $190,000.
Okay, my next question is we spent $190,000 on this, and then we get down to the nitty gritty to the final ending, and we get thrown to the curb. We get thrown to the back burner by this company. just because something else is going on. Does anybody, can you tell me why, or, I know we spoke on it before, but, I mean, just the longer I sit on it and choke on it, the angrier we get. Now, I mean, it's, maybe this year, it's gonna come active. Can you elaborate on that at all?
And I can. First of all, we are planning on bringing back an update next meeting on this, so we'll be fully prepared to address this at that meeting, but we have been presented some information from the manufacturer as it relates to national security breaches, that their resources right now are stretched, so our current go-live date is in jeopardy.
Yeah, so if they just, it's just aggravating that we spend $190,000 with this company and they get something else comes along and we get thrown to the curb. I mean, what's to say something else doesn't come along and it just keeps getting prolonged? I mean, can we go somewhere else? Can we, is there any legal action we can take? I mean, it just doesn't seem right. You spend $190,000 with a company and they just say, well, we got down to finishing it, but we're going to put you on the back burner and we may readdress it in 6 months from now. I'd love to hear from the rest of the council if that's, or from staff. I mean, if there's nothing we can do, our hands are tied, we just throwing good money after bad, or should I wait till the update comes before we address it even further?
I would suggest we are planning on bringing that full update at the next meeting, and with the holidays, it's been hard for everybody to get together on this, and I think staff would appreciate the opportunity to bring forth at the next update.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Braden?
Yes.
I'll add, make sure that in that update, I would like to hear the legal aspect of what we could possibly do. I just want to make sure that will hopefully be in the update of a legal side.
Sure, I can look at that if that's what y'all want us to do.
Just want to be clear.
Thank you.
Mr. Destin?
Never mind, that's what I was going to ask. Was there a termination or was there a completion date as part of the contract?
I'll include that. We'll include that in that review.
I'm sorry, Rodney, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. The stop signs on, I hate to ask, the stop signs on Main Street and Kelly, where we at with that?
We expect those to be up before the next meeting happens. The lights, the stop signs with the lights have been ordered, and we expect them to be installed and up before the next council meeting.
We've had the engineer from the county, whoever look at it, and all that's finalized. My understanding is we're good to go? Yep. Okay, thank you. We'll get that in a minute. I know I talked to city manager about it. The project manager, or whatever you want to call it, for the 98 redesign and rescape. I know when I talked to the city manager, we talked about it, having a project or having somebody ramrod in those two projects, and they're going to be in sync together. I mean, we don't need to put undergrounding in and come back and doing the redesign of 98, which they're doing, fixing to start doing, and then tearing all the new roads up and sidewalks up. So we need somebody on our behalf to basically ramrod that, and that's their only job. Lance, do you have any recommendations on that? Trying to get the same person that's doing the undergrounding to do both?
Yeah, I think we plan to be in conversation with the company that won the RFQ for the undergrounding this coming week, and we're going to pose that question to that firm. And if they feel capable, then I'm going to ask them what, if any, additional charges, because I'm guessing there would be, to add that responsibility onto that position they would charge, and if not, if they could recommend some other firms to help us coordinate those two projects.
Okay, can somebody please put that under my name for next meeting so you can give us a report on that, on what the recommendations are? Thank you. The harbor pump, can I get an update on the harbor pump? Is everything good to go with it? I know we were talking about putting the new one in, or?
Take this mask off again. The harbor pump is back operating its weekly schedule. We had an issue with the transformer out on the pole. So it went down for a few days, but it is operating. We're going to have some pump companies come over and take a look at it to see what it would cost to refurbish that and to make some modifications to the wet well so we don't have the air entrainment issues that we've had the past couple of years.
Okay,
That should be happening the next month or two.
okay, thank you. Let's see, visioning session's coming up. I really wanted to see if we couldn't get back to this whole Livery vessel discussion thing. I know there's, Joey, you still with us?
Yes, sir, I'm still with you.
Okay, good. Hey, I spoke with Charles Duplantis earlier, and he said he was, had already put in his application for his 2 businesses. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, we had 2 that were submitted, 2 that were submitted, but the date ones.
Were they kicked back or anything?
We have to get the proper information. They didn't submit the proper information, the proper application, I'm sorry.
So there was some information missing on their application. Does he know that?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware? Okay. Were there any more applications submitted up until now that were either kicked back or?
Total of 3.
12 of the 3?
A total of 3.
Total
Only
of
3
3.
applications. Yes, sir. We've
Okay.
only received 3 applications, and they submitted the wrong application. They didn't submit the new 2021.
Was that all 3 applications?
Yes, sir. 3 applications, that's all we received. And they were the wrong application, and they have been notified.
Okay.
Why were they wrong?
They submitted last year's applications.
But like,
They were
why?
applic-
I'm just curious, like, why would they have done that? Is it just that they kept it at their home office, or is it online?
No, we've took it offline. You can get it offline after we went, a lot of feedback, I'm sorry. Once we went live with that date, we changed it, and took it down. They could have got it right in that time frame. I can't speak for them.
When was the new form put online, Joey, for the people to get that?
I can't tell you the exact date. It was right after we went live. We noticed that all the system, it was up there, and I said, we got to fix this. So we took it down. We fixed it within 2 days, and we put it up there a couple days.
Was that December?
No, ma'am, I think it was in November. I believe it was in November. I can get you the date. I can get back with you on it.
Joey, it was the first meeting in November.
Yeah,
When that was
it was
voted on.
right at that time frame. When we went with the new ordinance, yes.
Okay.
Mayor, I keep pushing this.
Mr.
button.
Destin, go ahead.
In all fairness to the applicant.
You still have the floor, Mr. Braden.
Sorry, Mr. Braden, go
Yeah,
right ahead.
go ahead, buddy.
It was the same subject.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, in all fairness to the folks in the business, how many workshops have we had? This application and what we're going to do has been in flux. Tonight, I hope that we've settled it, but to think that they have been lollygagging, I've been contacted by several of them over what to do, and I've said, well, we're having workshops. Hopefully, we're going to come to a conclusion that's going to stick. We have now, but I wouldn't want to fault them for not having their applications in when the whole matter has been in flux.
Now they better hurry. Go ahead, Mr. Braden, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. My last one is for my fellow council members. Just a question, try to get your feelings on what would you do? If the city has a lawsuit outstanding, whether it's for $5,000 lawsuit or for $10 million, and it's just hanging in limbo and has been for a while, would you just let it go hanging over your head from now on, or would you like to try to get it moving along and close it out one way or the other?
I think in some of these cases of these suits, like the 2 that we just dealt with last meeting and this one, it's kind of up to the courts and the legal calendars per se, until our attorneys can come back with us with some concrete information to actually act on or move on, isn't that pretty much it? As far as suits have been filed against us? I mean, we don't get them put out here on our table until you have something to provide for us. I imagine Kim or Kyle could answer this question.
Yeah, I mean, generally, the general stance as a defendant in a litigation, which is what the city always is pretty much, is you don't change the status quo because the status quo doesn't ever hurt you. Whereas if you change the status quo, it certainly can hurt you or it could resolve things. But that's just generally the stance of attorneys in litigation. So,
I mean, me personally, I don't like a lawsuit hanging over my head when it's just sitting there in limbo. Neither side's doing nothing. And I don't like the city having a lawsuit hanging over their head, because something, the way my luck runs, if you're just sitting there in limbo and neither side's doing anything, but it's still there, something happens later, I just assume, if the city's got to be the one to move forward or get it moving again to try to close it out. But I mean, that's why I wanted to ask my fellow council members if they could care less whether it's hanging out there or not.
I know you're trying not to be directed at a particular suit, but I think that would be a question I'd probably put to our city attorneys. For yourself personally?
That's why I'm trying to ask my council members. And all I've gotten was you, and I haven't heard anything from council members.
Right.
I'll take the bait, Mr. Braden, but you kind of gave a pretty wide spectrum of a $5,000 to a $10 million lawsuit there.
Ditto. I didn't know where it was going.
I mean, in my experience, which is very little in legal stuff, I mean, if I'm a defendant in something, unfortunately, I wait on pins and needles while I wait to defend myself until a case is brought against me. But at the same time, if there's some type of settlement opportunity, then, if you look at the financial crisis, economic crisis, different things going on in the country, then maybe there's a financial opportunity to be proactive and try to close something out. Considering I have no idea what you're talking about, but just, if there's an opportunity to be proactive, if it's a lawsuit that we're going to be hit hard with, then if we could possibly be proactive to take advantage of a economic crisis or whatever it might be that might be beneficial for the person suing us that would want to take that, then maybe we should reconvene or tell our lawyers to get them back to the table or whatever that is.
And I think we need to be careful here, seeing how we are defendants, because we're on the public record right now.
It's just hypotheticals, right?
So if there's a specific thing, I guess maybe we can have an executive session to be more specific at some point, or how should we handle this? I want to be cautious here, but he's got a legitimate concern.
Keep in mind that for executive sessions, you got to be careful not to violate the Sunshine Law, and that you can only talk about two topics. One is litigation expenses, and two is settlement negotiations. Now, no case other than the one that we settled here today, do I have any settlement offer from any plaintiff. So if the council has some settlement opportunity that it would like to discuss, we could call an executive session. There's really nothing related to litigation expenses, but outside of a potential settlement idea from the council on some specific piece of litigation, there's really it would not be wise to call an executive session.
Is my caution warranted?
I would say that given these particular circumstances, we don't have, it's very rare in my time at the city that I could say we don't have much active litigation, but at this point we do not have much active litigation. So just keep that in mind when we discuss potentially active cases.
How many do we have that are pending?
We have two cases that are both against the same party.
Now, if we were going to have an open discussion about suing someone, we could discuss that at this format right here.
Sure. I mean, you can always bring up if you want to sue somebody. I bill hourly, but if you want to sue somebody, feel free.
Well, I'm just trying to kind of set the table here that we got to be cautious. Your concerns are legit, but to get an opinion, we need to be more specific, and if we're more specific, we might be exposing ourselves to legal liability. It's only,
Right.
it's a
I just think-
catch-22, Mr. Braden.
I think it would be in the city's best interest for us to hold a executive session to discuss, maybe our legal fees, to see if it's worthwhile.
I think it's unwise. There's nothing to discuss at this time. I'm not asking for an executive session.
Okay.
So we just leave it. I mean, if you guys just want to leave a lawsuit hanging out there, they can come back and bite us in the ass later. That's what I'm asking.
Nothing can come back and bite you if you're the defendant and nothing happens from your perspective. Whereas if you do start doing things, then yes, things can come back and bite you. So I believe that it's flipped from what your view is right now.
Kyle, you said 2 cases against the same party?
Yeah, I mean that they're the plaintiff and we are the defendant in 2 active cases. They're tangentially related to each other in that they, I know, it's a very awkward position to be in.
No, that's okay. I had thought there were 3, but 2, okay.
There is one that is the subject of an active settlement agreement that is currently being executed, which I did not include in that initial assessment. Besides that, I think there are 2. I could be wrong, but I think it's 2.
Eggshells, basically, is where we're at, so.
And I think it is me personally, because I'm dealing with, it's a city, and when I think about the city, I'm thinking about the other 13, 14,000 people who live here, and if somebody's suing me and I'm defending myself, I don't want it hanging over my head not knowing what's going on. What is the person that's suing me, what are they doing or not doing? Just makes you nervous the whole
Yeah,
time.
I have confidence in both our attorneys that if something's going on, that we'll be the first to know about it when that takes.
Of course, we would, if something was going on, we would gladly call the council members individually, and any of y'all are always welcome to call us or meet with us and any members of staff at any time on any litigation or really non-litigation issue. Our door's always open.
Did you say that we're allowed to have an executive session to present a possible settlement idea to you? Is that what you said?
So for the one case in particular that we have that's active, if there is some sort of idea of a settlement that council wants to discuss, I would suggest that it be done. It doesn't have to be done in an executive session, but to ensure that the strategy is sound and that the opposing party is not aware of our strategy, it should be done in an executive session. That would be the strategic thing to do. But absent that, I really would caution the council that an executive session is unwise because really you just get into yourself into potential sunshine law issues if there's nothing to discuss at it. So,
Why can't a council member or the mayor call for an executive session so we can discuss amongst ourselves without breaking the sunshine law? Why does it have to be one of the attorneys?
that's just how the law is worded.
I thought I just heard him say we could.
If y'all want to, technically the attorneys are the ones that are supposed to be the ones that are asking for the executive session. But I mean, if there's something to discuss, then sure, tell us and we will call the executive session, or we will ask that the executive session be called, and it'd be up to council, of course, whether to actually call it. But initially, that is generally on the attorneys, because strategy is generally viewed in the law as sacred grounds of the attorneys, so that's why it is set up that way.
Yeah, and that attorney over there has said twice now that he doesn't recommend we be proactive at this time.
So with so many new people on council, would it be a good strategy to call an executive session and discuss the outstanding lawsuits and future strategy regarding them so that everyone's up to speed?
I would love it if we could call an executive session and just discuss things generally, but unfortunately the statute's very clear that you can only discuss litigation expenses and settlement negotiations.
Yeah.
So, and I don't have a settlement offer from any opposing party with active litigation against the city. I haven't heard any settlement offer that this council wishes to discuss at this time, and there's
They
nothing to
wouldn't
discuss
know.
in litigation expenses. And if we were to call that, I mean, it'd be a very short meeting. we
But
can,
We could, as attorneys, call the new council members and fill them in on all pending litigation and where everything stands. Outside.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. We can call the new council members and the old council members too if we want to discuss it.
I think that's helpful because I don't even know where they all stand.
Sure, we will start scheduling meetings on that then.
Mr. Brady.
I'm done.
Mayor,
Thank
I
you,
would
sir.
just have one comment.
Yeah, just go ahead, Mr. I saw you take.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Since Mr. Braden asked, as a council member, I expect the attorneys to always try to get suits against the city dismissed either through settlement or through action in the court, and I have faith that that's exactly what they're doing. And so at the moment, I'm satisfied, although it would not hurt for them to individually talk to everybody.
Especially with the new folks on board, just get an update on where we're at. Okay, Dr. Ramswell, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things on here, and I'm actually going to do number 2 first, which is contract with the county for beach cleaning. And Ray did a great job of trying to include everything that I was trying to look at and make sure it was available for everyone to take a look at themselves. So I'm sure none of us are surprised to hear that there's ongoing concerns from the public being raised about the raking of the beaches, how often they're being cleaned, and we're getting ready to enter into a new season. So I know Ms. Firth is here tonight, and she, of course, is our staff representative on the Beach Advisory Committee, and the Beach Advisory Committee meets once a month. We haven't met in a month or so, obviously because of the holidays, but one of the things that we've discussed and has really come up was trying to ensure going forward that our beaches look the way that we want them to look. And we've gone through sort of a spell where that has not been the case. So, Ms. Firth, would you elaborate? Because I know you said that you've had some discussions. There's some new folks on board at the county that are going to be perhaps interested in working with us and increasing that frequency. So if you wouldn't mind sharing what you've learned.
Yes. Good evening. We are working with the county. Of course, with our beach committee, we came up with some of the concerns. The concerns are the cleaning of the beach. Cleaning of the beach, there's, a few components that we have to get together, and that is county, city, turtle watching, and the vendors is what we came up with to get those 4 entities working together, and that's what we're doing right now. County has been very proactive in working with, Webb's been working with them, actually. So the concerns are in the right hands, and we are waiting for them to come back with a agreement, and we all know we need to work together and get that beach cleaned, but it is going to take effort from city, vendors, and it's all about the timing in 2 or 3 hours, of that morning time to get everybody where they're supposed to be at that time and getting it clean. So that's what we're trying to do right now. Webb, you might have something more?
Yes, I'd be happy to add that the county has been in communication, and has been very proactive communication with the city. They have done some restructuring at the county as it relates to the beach cleaning. They now have a new director, I believe, who is in charge of beach and parks, and they have moved that process underneath them. And they have been actively looking at new and improved ways. Part of that is process with the city, in coordination with the city as well as other entities. So that's where we're at. They do want to have a discussion about an MOU or an interlocal to set expectations of what our beach cleaning should look like. And so we're in accordance to what the beach committee has come up with and discussed, and the county was part of that process. They are taking that feedback and been in active communication with staff, and any MOU or interlocal agreement would come before council for consideration.
So I know that before the county took over operations, Sandman was the one that was hired to do the cleaning, and he had a regular schedule every day, like clockwork. And that was one of the things that worked really well, is because everybody knew he was coming through, he was reliable, so the vendors didn't set up until he went through. Sea Turtle guy knew he was coming through, so he'd finish before. So it was a very well-organized, reliable process. And I know there've been a lot of changes with the county procedures, and then they were down a rake and different things going on. So I think that is also factored in with why it hasn't been as frequently raked, was because, you know, by the time they were able to come over, well, the chairs were already set up, they couldn't get through, various other reasons. So one of the things I looked into is, because we talked about it a little bit last year, was, is it feasible, and is Sandman even still available to do those services if we needed him to, or if we wanted to put out some sort of RFQ or RFP to try to get folks that might be capable of doing it to respond. And he actually is still available if that's something that we need to look at. Clearly, it looks like we've got a new director on board with the county, and I'd love to see things work out with them. When I looked at the old interlocal, it didn't look like it actually had a number of days that it was going to be raked. And I think that's something that would be important to maybe include in that. And I'd love to hear from the rest of the council, because I think that's where we kind of got off base, was with no set frequency. You know, if it would go literally a week or 2 weeks even without being raked, well, there was nothing to kind of fall back on in a contract. So is daily reasonable? Do we want to do every other day? What are y'all interested in seeing?
I'd like to weigh in on with that, Dr. Ramswell, because I read all your documents, and I support your initiative 100%. I think we've all been disappointed with the services we've had up to this point, and I think the county recognizes that, and are trying to address some of it. I think this is a great discussion for our new visioning session that we have, that we could be more explicit on what we expect. We can also talk about the idea of a RFQ, you know, a request for a bid. I was looking back on it, it's a big ticket item. It's $1 million deal, you know, to clean the beaches for an entire season. So we're already through our budgetary process for 2021. So I imagine we're probably going to be stuck. I don't want to say stuck, because our county partners, we don't want to make them mad, but that's what we're going to get for this year. But I think during our visioning session, if we could flesh that kind of stuff out and line ourselves up, my gut feeling is if we're in control of the beach cleanup within the city of Destin limits, we're going to get a product that we're probably going to be a lot happier with, because we're the one that put out the bid in the contract. So you and I are on the same page here, because our beaches, in some of it is, you know, the MOU was from 2013. Well, now we have some trash issues that weren't in existence with 2013, with people leaving all this garbage on our beaches, you know, and we've done our best. We've taken some of the ideas from previous visioning sessions and stuff with the leave no trace behind. I've done PSAs, you have too. It falls on deaf ears in certain segments, and as a result, we have piles of trash at the, you know, on the second day of July in the evening. So I really think that, you know, we work with the county, we'd be good partners, but I sure like to flesh this out during our visioning session, to take a real hard look at us having our own beach cleaning service within the city of Destin limits, so we could address those issues of them running down there, putting their chairs up at the water line before the beach, you know, the rake has time to even come by, you know, because we're the one issuing those BTRs, so we can have that discussion. So I support you 100% on that one.
Great, thanks. Yeah, we're obviously the golden goose in terms of TDC dollars coming in and having the beaches around here, and that's one thing that has been very frustrating to me, is seeing the beaches just look awful. And I hate to say that, but there's really no other word for it. And it's just because they have not been able to rake them and pick up the trash as often as they really need to. So I'd like to see us come up with some, you know, what we'd like to include in some sort of MOU or a contract, be it, you know, at least 5 days a week, every other, whatever. And I think if we can get either the county, or if we decide at some point to go back to private, if we can get someone to actually abide by a schedule and they know they're going to be there, everything's going to fall back into place just like it used to, because they want the beaches clean, everybody that's out there. So, meaning our vendors, meaning our resident, everybody. So, yeah. go
Just
ahead.
since you're asking the council, interlocal agreement, the county's supposed to be cleaning the beach, right? And so their issue that we've read over the stuff that you had sent to us, which was fantastic, is that it's a little vague, unclear. What can we hold them accountable for? Is that kind of the issue? That,
Yeah, I think right now it's just, you know, TDC pays a certain amount of money, county is going to be in charge of the cleaning, and that's sort of it. There's no definitive.
So, I mean, rather than waiting for the visioning session to talk about how the city of Destin wants to take on trash pickup on the beach, are we not able to ask staff to go directly to the county to figure out this contract specifically and what this coming up season, our expectations and requirements are going to be for the county to clean up our beaches?
I think that's what they're doing right now with the new director, Kevin.
I understand. I was just chit-chatting
No,
sunshine laws and all that stuff.
No, I understand that. No, I think that portion's being done. What I was talking about, the visioning session was taking it for 2021 because the budget for all this is already established, so.
The budget's established, but holding people accountable, the county, for doing the job that the budget is established to do, if we can put, I mean, I want to be partners as well, but, and maybe that's what they're about to tell us, that they're already talking to them, but, I mean, Dr. Owensville, I think we should 100% go to the county and tell them, you're supposed to be doing this and you're not doing it, so let's clear this up.
Would you like to give an update there, just to answer Kevin's concerns, which are legit, and it goes right into that, and I'm giving you the floor back, Dr. Ramswell, just a second. Go ahead, Webb.
I would suggest that our starting point would be the original RFP for beach cleaning services, and there's a scope of work in there. And I believe that was sent out to council earlier today. And I think that's a great starting point for us to say, here's the expectations that were done in the original RFP. Are these being met? And then we can go from there. We've learned a lot from this beach committee, thanks to Ms. Firth and Dr. Ramswell and all the wonderful people who've been working with that, and a lot of feedback on how we can improve this through collaboration or maybe other ways of doing that. So I think that's a starting point. We can have that discussion with the county, and then we can advise council and bring that back to council as we have that more set.
Can you remind us, because if it was sent today, I didn't get a chance to look over it, but was there a specific number of days a week that we had initially requested way back when?
I don't know that it was actually a request. It was what they proposed to the existing Destin City Council at that time, which I think was 2014-ish.
Okay, and was that the one where it said something like 3 to 5 days a week? And
And there were different times a year. I'm on that page right now where it lays out for the winter time. Obviously, it's going to be less frequent, but for the on season, it was 5 days a week.
And that didn't occur?
I don't think so.
I know so. I mean, even the vendors put together a page, and every morning they would take a photograph of the beach and post it, and then you could track. And I presented that at some meeting we had.
Do we need to give direct instructions to hopefully achieve this conversation with the county before this coming season?
Yeah, if you want to make something or anybody else wants to weigh in, I mean.
I'm not opposed to that at all. I just want you all to know that we have been working with the county on this exact issue with both the administration and the director of the TDC. The deputy county administrator has really been active in working with us. Since I've been involved with this because of my previous position for a long time, I spoke to them. They've lost some organizational knowledge on their side too. And the current director of the TDC nor the current deputy city or county administrator were on board when this was sent out. So they were really not aware that this is what the council, and I think Mr. Destin was on council then, this is what that council at that time was sold on, was that these specifications that they were sending out if it became an internal process, meaning that their public works department took it over, which we weren't opposed to, but the level of service would not go down. And that's what we were all sold on. And if that's not the way it is, that's okay, but we need to understand that. And I think that's what you're saying. We need to know the expectations and then have the accountability on the other side of it so that we can
Well,
get the
I
beaches
think
in.
that's a great way to go, and maybe we start as a starting point with the 5 days a week minimum for the entire beaches, not just the east side or not just the west side, but the entire beaches of Destin at least 5 days a week.
Why wouldn't we go 7 days a week? Because we have the activities on the weekends. Is that too?
Oh, I'm fine with
Yeah, I
7
mean,
days a week. I was
2014, it was great for 5 days a week, but we're in
was in-
2021 now, and we're full year-round, unlike anyone else.
I got, Dr. Ramsell, I got Rodney and Skip want to weigh in on your question. And I just want to remind you that we have new county commissioner, Mel Ponder, who will go to bat for us on this. And before we start making motions to demand certain things, I think.
This is going to the table with suggestions.
It wasn't demand, it was just making sure we're giving the
No,
right
no,
direction to staff.
Right. But I just want to encourage us, especially with Mel, all of us can reach out to him personally and share with him. And I think he can stay on top of what the staff's already pled. Now we got Skip here, who's represents the TDC for the city of Destin. I'd like for him to answer Dr. Ramsell or make comments, and then Rodney, and then Dr. Ramsell, you can ask some more questions if you'd like, or go on with the rest of your stuff. Go ahead, Skip.
Yeah, so I talked with staff about this a little bit today, but and so the bottom line, I think, is that, TDC is paying the county to clean our beaches, along with a lot of other beaches, but throughout the county. But, so I guess what's important, and if you look at the RFB is pretty specific on how much we expected them, or how much we thought they were going to do as far as clearing the beaches. And at certain points in the year, it is 7 days a week, and other points of the year, it's less than that, but it kind of depends on how busy the season is and how much trash is going to be out there. So I think what the bottom line of this whole thing is that what did we think we were going to get from the county, and what did the TDC think they were paying for from the county, and what is the county delivering? And I think that's what the committee is working with Webb, and the committee is working with them to find out from the county what is going on with this beach cleaning, and does it meet the requirements that we had? And if it doesn't, then what can we do to change that and make it where it does fit what we want? And I agree with, and I think the mayor brought this up earlier, is that a lot of this is already kind of in it's not even in wet cement anymore, it's in almost in concrete, what they're going to do this year, because they've already budgeted for it, they've already staffed for it. So we need to find out what that is and how different is that from what we really expected they were going to be doing for us. And is there opportunities for them to change that so that it does meet the requirements that we have, that we thought was what was in the RFB was what they were going to do. So I think that's, and certainly from a TDC perspective, I will work with the TDC to find out what their take is on this, and what do you guys think you're paying for, and what do you think you're getting? Because here's what you are getting. And is that what you think you were supposed to get? And if it isn't, then maybe there needs to be some realignment from the county. But I think that I agree with everything that they're saying about the county staff, is that they are willing to work with us, and some of those folks are new, and they've kind of lost some of the corporate knowledge that they had coming into this. And I think they're willing to work with us now, and so I think with this committee that you have, and with me trying to help with the TDC, I think we can kind of get this thing in line. I don't know that we need to go to the county and tell them, this is what we want you to do. I think it's more of a cooperative effort between us and the county. This is what we like. This is what we think that you were providing, we're supposed to be providing. This is not what you're providing, and just so they know what we think their shortcomings are. And I think we'll work through that before the season.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, along those same lines y'all just spoke about, I believe we've mended a lot of fences with the county. The last thing I want to do is go back, the other direction. Working together is a whole lot easier and nicer. And I've spoke with another county commissioner, it wasn't Mel, and they were all in favor of letting us take it over and do it ourselves. So if that's something that we want to go, or direction we want to go, I think, my gut's telling me that we got the support from them, and we can take it over and get the money from TDC ourselves and hire our own contractor, and then we can hold him responsible for it.
I think before our visiting session, we'll have more information coming from the staff and the committee, so we can have that robust discussion during visiting. And if we decide that's a priority, that we do want to take it over, that'd be the perfect format to do it. And then we can start planning for our 2022 budgeting process to put that in a budget, because we're going to have to get money from the TDC. I mean, it's a big ticket item, so I think that'll be the best opportunity, and that way we're not throwing rocks over the
Right,
day
and
at
that's,
the
my
same time.
intention is not to
Oh,
throw rocks.
no, I'm not
And
insinuating that at all. Go-
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate what Mr. Overdeer and Mr. Braden are saying, and I don't want to go backwards either, and that's why I just wanted to come up with some suggestions that this is what we'd like to see, this is what, the original terms were, it would be great if we could do that, and if we can't, then, hey, we talk about taking it into our own hands and putting out a bid and making sure that it is done, because that's something, we can't afford to have people not want to come here anymore because the beaches look like crap, pardon the expression, but that's what's been happening. So, anyway. Okay, so I guess at this point, my direction would be to continue working, but we're interested, it sounds like if I have consensus, on upholding those original terms that we had discussed way back in 2014, which was, sometimes 7 days a week, some days 5 days a week. And then hopefully by the next meeting, we all can have some feedback, and then we'll have the beach advisory committee on what, the 28th? Did you say, Ms. Firth?
Yes, is that,
That'll be after our
Thursday?
next meeting.
That's
but
the fourth Thursday.
I don't know.
I think it's the 28th.
Okay, terrific. And that item actually was lumped in with the Beach Advisory Committee, and I just wanted to see if there was anything else that council would like to have the Beach Advisory Committee discuss in terms of things we'd like to see or do for the year. Go ahead.
I was looking at, one of our constituents sent what they're doing over in Walton County. It's those box type things of people putting all your beach stuff, instead of throwing it away or letting it blow away, whenever you leave the beach, have a big sign there and a crate about the size of where those lounge chairs are, put away every night, that basically says, put your no longer needed stuff here for people coming to the beach tomorrow. So we don't have all this as trash that people are like, okay, I bought this tent at Walmart, I don't have room in my car to drive back. I would like to encourage our beach team to create some sort of, and I don't know if it gets done through the city or through maintenance or public works, but create at least a couple of these to see how that goes, especially in some of those small, compact public beaches that we have.
A June Decker, for sure, yeah.
And if not, Miss Aber will have a garage sale every other Saturday.
I have people that want to know, where can you get loaner stuff? I'm like, oh my God, we can create that.
And you can see, like Saturdays, there'll be just piles of tents and umbrellas and chairs, because nobody's taking them home with them, so they just leave them out or they throw them by the trash.
When we've done beach cleanups through the summer, we'll do like one every other week, and they're all in different parts of the beaches. 90% of the time, it is reclining chairs, tents, blow-up stuff, and all of it's still in good shape, and it's just left on the edge of the, the dunes. And people don't realize that, if you could just keep reusing it. I don't know if we could ever encourage the short-term rentals or the condo owners. Hey, you've got people checking in. Do you have a place you could put in your lobby? Here's the stuff you're not going to use anymore. We got people checking in. They don't need to go buy it.
That's a great idea. Absolutely. And we could probably talk about that more at visioning, and beach committee can talk about it too. Yeah.
I'd have the beach committee folks come to the visioning session, seeing how it is open to the public to weigh in when we're having that discussion.
That's a good idea. Did you hear that, Ms. Firth? Yeah, good idea.
And council, if I may, the TDC has really been focusing on a theme of stewardship for our beaches, and that stewardship needs to come from both visitors, our businesses, and our residents. And that's something that Jennifer Adams and the Vision the TDC. I think, you know, it's exciting to see them going that direction. So maybe that's part of what you're talking about there. So I do want to reaffirm that, you know, personally, I've seen some very exciting things coming out of the vision of the TDC, and we're happy to work with them. And so we'll see where that goes, and we're happy to update council, and maybe we can get TDC to also update council in the near future.
Awesome. So if you guys have any suggestions along this line, feel free to send them to, I guess, Webb or Lisa or whomever.
And we can, and Lance, for the visioning session, this will be an item, an agenda item, okay?
If Lisa or somebody could find out what TDC is collecting, what dollar amount we would be getting from them, and maybe get an idea of what a beach cleaning service would cost, so we could have those numbers to see if it would actually be feasible to put it in our budget. Thank you.
And I have an email from Taylor Ward, who runs Sandman, that I can forward to you, Lance, or whomever, to take a look at that. And I'm not sure if he included numbers in that or not, but yeah. Okay, so the third thing I have on here was the homeless camps and the plans and ideas. I know we've had, it seems every year around this time, it seems more noticeable, and I've had several complaints and concerns from folks about, sorry, something's going on, sirens and police leaving. Okay, so we've had a lot of people voicing their concerns about homeless folks in the area, and it seems to be an influx. It may just be that it's more noticeable. I do know one of the things that I've been told was that if the homeless camps or homeless people are set up on private property, well, in order for the sheriff's department to do anything, that property owner actually has to file some sort of complaint. And that has been like a trespassing. And that has been some of the issues, because a lot of the places where these folks are set up are private property, and we can't, for whatever reason, get in touch with the property owner. And so I did want to just sort of share that, because like I said, I've gotten just an influx lately of people asking about this. And I wanted to see, staff, if y'all have heard anything further about any steps. I know there's been some strides, great strides made in Fort Walton in terms of facilities and cold weather shelters and such, but have y'all heard anything different in terms of what's being done to try to prevent these sort of camps that are occurring, and what are we doing to sort of encourage folks to not camp?
I have not recently heard. In the past, I know the faith-based organizations in Destin have done a great job helping out in this exact area. And actually, Destin is dependent on the faith-based organizations to help take care and manage this group. But I will look into it and see if I can't bring back some additional information.
Okay, and I believe I just saw our sheriff's officer come back in. Sir, I hate to put you on the spot, but I know we've had some complaints about different homeless camps set up, and there were some issues trying to reach some of the owners. Do you by any chance have any input or insight into whether some of those owners had been reached, or where the situation stands, if there's anything we can do as a council to help you do whatever you can? Or
Yes, ma'am. Before the holidays, last I heard, we had contacted all of the property owners, specific properties you're talking about, but we haven't received back the authorization for the trespass warnings. That's all we're waiting on right now from the property owners.
Can I interject? Is that even the one on Main Street right by the post office? Because that was a month ago that I was told that that would be issued.
It hadn't been issued yet to us for our authority to do the trespass. Basically, yes.
Dr. Ramswell, can I ask you a question, or ask a question? Is for staff-wise, enforcement, is there anything that could be updated or changed code-wise that we could do to assist by altering procedural situations to allow code to have a more sharper teeth into the bite?
If I could jump in, there's actually a pending code enforcement matter on the property that was just referenced, and the hearing is scheduled for our upcoming date in February. So since that's a quasi judicial matter, we won't get into the specifics of that one at a public meeting. But we do have certain code provisions that can be enforced now that are not the same issues that are being enforced by the sheriff's office.
Yeah, I'm not really, I understand all that, but Webb, I think we had a discussion at one point that there might be something that the council could do to assist code to possibly adjust an ordinance, or there was different ideas that we could possibly discuss now that we're up here, and this was brought up by Dr. Ramswell, and maybe I'm not remembering correctly because it was the early stages of our orientation, but are there ideas that we could adjust codes or to help code enforcement?
I think the context of the conversation was that on quasi-judicial matters, I will defer to what the land use attorney said. Council can update codes through ordinances as they're looking to the future, but I'll just leave it at that. But that was in context of quasi-judicial matters, just like Ms. Kopp said.
Mr. Schmidt, I think Joey's still online if you want to ask him that question too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm not asking the question correctly, but it's not about this particular case. It was just that there's a lot of red tape and jurisdictional situations that we have to wait, like a trespassing warrant that they don't even have yet. So, but I was told that there was possibly something that we could do for code enforcement department to allow them to go in earlier to any property, nothing that's currently pending. I'm just, 3 months from now, there's another camp somewhere that we might be able to assist, but maybe I'm just completely swinging and missing here.
I think one thing, and I know by the one property we're talking about, is they can issue a trash and debris. I mean, it's insane the amount of trash that's there to the property owner, and maybe that'll light some fire under them to get their no trespassing application into the sheriff's department.
That's about where we're limited at, because our code enforcement can't come and remove somebody off a piece of property because they are being trashy. That's the problem.
What about public nuisance? Not that, I'm not saying they
That's-
are,
that's
but
still
sometimes when
sheriff's-
there's drugs
that's still
involved
sheriff's
and the
Can
needles.
Dave weigh in on this, please?
Actually, there are several codes we can use, and we are in the process of using some without getting into any specific properties. You can use the accumulation of trash and debris. You can use zoning violations because basically they're setting up a camp, which if it's not in the zone, in the right district, they can't do that, and we go after the property owner. And that kind of speeds it up with the property owner to basically force these people out quicker because they are the ones that are going to be responsible for it. So we have 2 or 3 different codes that we do use, and they seem to work pretty well.
Thanks, sir. Kevin, does that pretty much answer what you were asking? Okay, go ahead, Dr. Ramsey.
Ms. Bell was raising your hand. Weren't you on a homeless task force or something of that nature?
No, I volunteer at one of the places. I'm
Is that okay with council if?
It's your floor, so if you'd like to invite her up, come on,
Sure,
go
why
ahead.
not?
Can we tell you who I am? Marcy Bell, 3 Gulf Breeze Court. So just in reference to the homeless in Destin. So first of all, here in Destin over the holidays, I believe that there was a group of individuals that were being transported here, and they were being dropped off at each of our individual shopping centers because they are not the normal group that's here. They just were not the normal group that were here. I saw them at Target, the Target parking shopping center. I saw them over by Home Depot, Home Goods, and then I saw them again at Publix. And they were here for a very short time. In fact, I think they were maybe only here for a day or two. And I really, truly believe that they all came in a van. I don't know what their purpose was, but they were using small children with their signs, and I'm just, that was, they are not the normal homeless. So what I'd like you to know is that the homeless population here in Destin is not any different than the rest of society. There's good players and there's bad players, and they're homeless for all different reasons. I pretty much know who they all are. I mean, and if we have new people who come in, they float in like through Fort Walton, from Fort Walton, like, I don't know why they come to Destin or they're here, but then they've got to get back to Fort Walton. But the problem that we have in Destin is we have no shelter for them. If it's cold weather, the only place they have, the closest place they have to go is to Fort Walton. So while I understand the problem is that they are living on these vacant properties and you can't get a hold of the property owners, I would also ask you to implore, what's the solution? There are communities all over this country that have solutions that they're coming up with for housing them. So while we talk about what do we do with them and what do we do to get rid of them, let's talk about having a solution for how we can also help them in putting them somewhere. Not all of them are going to go into a place. Some of them don't want to be anywhere. They want to be on their own. But I'm just imploring you guys that while you make decisions to move them away, there needs to be also a solution on where do they go. That's all. I just want you to know that that community they're not all bad people.
No, definitely not. And do you know how full the Fort Walton Beach shelter is when?
I don't know the numbers because I don't actually deal in that part. I deal with clothing them and feeding them. And I work with the individuals, I don't work with the families. And also, if anybody out there has any clothing, we are always welcoming clothing and food at any time at the Blue Door over at the Episcopal Church. But for that purpose, no.
Thank you for your insight.
I'm
I
sorry.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, if you have any other questions,
It's
I'll be
just
happy.
bad. I mean, it's bad. I mean, because like you said, they're like the rest of society. That there's good apples and bad apples, and there's a lot of them there that want to be there. And I know some of them. I've worked some of them, and I know they're capable of working.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want to work. Like you said, they want to be on the street. They don't want no responsibility. So it's like anything else. I mean, everybody gets penalized. I get penalized for the bad people. I get penalized for people that don't pay their bills or don't whatever.
Right.
You know, I get penalized for it. So you can't penalize one and not, you know, you can't pick and choose. So
Oh, no. I mean, we've been through this with many different task force that I've participated in. I mean, you have to treat all of them the same. My point being is that I wanted you to know that if you're getting complaints here recently for the holidays, there was a group of people that were all over that aren't normally here. I mean, if that's the complaint that you were receiving, we're coming out of the holidays.
That's some of them, but there were certain properties that received
Yes.
more complaints
And we
than
all
others.
know about those particular properties, and I will also tell you that in that society, that particular group in that society live at that camp. The other group of that society lives at this camp. Like, they intermingle the way that they do with each other. I mean, just like regular society. And I agree with you. I'm just saying that while we talk about what do we do with them, it's always also fair to talk about the other side of what's the solution, not just get rid of them.
good to have a place for the ones that want to go somewhere, to have a place to go, and the ones that don't, then you just got to move them out.
Right. And I agree with you. And that is a split part of the community for sure.
And Marcia, at this point, the faith-based communities mainly just fed them and clothed them, and there's no churches that provide any type of facilities overnight. I know some churches will allow an individual or two individuals, they'll shelter them in certain situations, but is there any church in our
Not in
city
Destin.
that has a shelter?
No, and I think the problem is they were looking for volunteers that were willing to also man those. You know, and that's prior to COVID. I mean, let's not even throw COVID into that. I mean, they have to have volunteers, and, you know, there's not a lot of young people that volunteer, and there's a lot of older people that aren't sure about their safety. I mean, I don't know that that's the actual issue, but I'm just, you know.
I'm sure it is. Thank you, Marcia.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Dr. Ramswell, You
Thank
still have the
you.
floor.
Yes, and my last item that I have on here is the Highway 98 merge signage. I've brought this up before about how now going westbound, right before you get, I think it is to Indian Bayou or Joe's Crab Shack thing, how it's like all of a sudden that right turn lane, you got to turn right or you're stuck and people. So I had asked Michael Burgess to take a look into that and get with FDOT. And Michael, do you want to discuss what they're doing to remedy that situation for us?
Sure, Councilor Ramswell. After the last meeting, I reached out to the day-to-day engineer on the Highway 98 widening job, plus the District 3 engineer over in Chipley, about your concerns and other concerns that we had heard about the abrupt nature of that lane shift, and that there was a right-hand turn lane that just kind of pops up on folks unexpectedly. And so what they had to do was reach out to the engineer of record for that job and ask for possible modifications, suggestions. What I provided you all with earlier is what they gave me this morning as far as a first step in mitigating the kind of lack of information about having to merge left if you want to continue to go through that Airport Road intersection. There are two existing signs out there, one at 250 feet and one at 800 feet. The two additional signs there's one at 250 and one at 800. They're adding a sign at 400 feet and one at 1,000 feet, and it'll also have right turn lane ahead 1,000 feet, 800 feet, 400 feet, so it won't take you by surprise. This isn't exactly what I was expecting, but this is what they've provided.
And will it, not just right turn lane, but will it say right turn only merge left or something a little bit stronger than this is a right turn lane? Because, yeah, we know that. The problem is you can't go straight, too.
It says right lane must turn right.
Perfect. Thank you so much for looking into this. And when are they looking at having this completed?
That's the second step. The contractor was also CC'd on this email that I received this morning, so they've been notified that they'll have to order the signage and all, get it in. But and I've already kind of had a micro conversation with Don, our new city engineer, about this solution, and we'll just continue to monitor it. I'm sure you all will hear the good and the bad and the ugly about that whole situation. And if this is insufficient, we can surely go back to the engineer of record and ask for additional measures to be taken.
I hope not, because I'd like to get it done with one fell swoop rather than
I
going
would
back
as
and
well.
forth, back and forth. But thank you for looking into this and helping see it through. The last thing I want to mention is that today is January 4th, 2021, and it is the first day of Destin High Schools accepting applications for enrollment next year. So if you've got a student that'll be attending a high school next year, 9th, 10th, or 11th grade at this point, please submit your application, and we look forward to opening the doors and welcoming students in August.
Sounds great. All right, Mr. Destin.
Your New Year's Eve resolution, I have nothing tonight.
Bless you, my son. Miss Overdeer.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Bless you too, Miss Abear.
I had a few things. Fortunately, Ms. Preble brought up several of them, and so did Mr. Schmidt and Rodney. The only thing I do want to stress is the livery vessel, the new form. The email that we got as council tonight, I have forwarded to Lance and Mr. Lewis. If y'all could look over the suggestions that they, I think some of those could make sense and would help the folks that are, applying. And thanks about the Main Street camp situation, what's happening there. And the last thing I want to ask, Marcy Bell had sent us some Gulf Shore Drive sidewalk repairs during the holidays. Is that being worked on, done? I don't know what those sidewalks look like now.
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, I'll go ahead and address that. The contractor, Mr. Hayes, and his crew demoed some additional sidewalk today, framed it for a pour tomorrow. there's a lot of damaged sidewalk out there on Holiday Island. You have to kind of set these things up to fix them. You can't fix them one panel at a time. I 100% acknowledge the interruption and it was unfortunate that it happened over the Christmas holiday. We'll try to avoid that in the future, but we're going to remedy a lot of those situations tomorrow. And I was speaking to Councilor Braden today about all the sidewalk work that we have ahead of us. And so just stay tuned. It's an immense amount of work that we have to cover.
And the last thing, thank you, Lance, for your team getting those stop signs ordered so that by the 19th, we have Main Street and Kelly a three-way stop with lit signs. Thank you.
Mr. King.
Thank you. Sorry, I feel slightly disconnected being on the other end of the technology here, but just want to say I appreciate all the conversation and banter back and forth. Like I say, I feel slightly disconnected and couldn't just chime in and bump in, but nothing really. Happy New Year. I appreciate all of y'all.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Schmidt.
Just a quick question. The signs on Kelly and Main, are they going to be up and lit, you think, or are we going to be bagging those signs on Kelly and Main for a week or two? I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So the expectations are set.
City Engineer Don Smith and I have discussed that, and we're going to be renting some variable message boards to advise the traveling public, especially on Main Street, that there's a changing condition upcoming. And once we kind of have an ETA on those signs, we can kind of get a little bit more concrete on implementation and what date will go live with the new signage. And of course, they will be bagged initially. They will be bagged because we don't want to surprise anyone.
Yeah, so active signs aren't coming in 2 weeks then, right? Is that?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're all in
So I believe the plan,
okay.
I'm sorry.
No,
I believe the plan is to install, we're going to be removing the flashing crosswalk, because we can't have those both there at that one-stop condition. So we'll be removing that one, installing the other signs, bagging them, putting up the variable message boards, alerting the public. Catherine will do her public information thing that she does so well, letting folks know, the media and others, our Facebook friends, know that something's changing right here. Please be advised, and that we'll work together with the city manager and others, and we'll say it's going to be on this day.
Sounds good.
Bags.
Appreciate it. Nothing else, sir. Thank you so much.
The only thing I got tonight, in lieu of my New Year's resolution, is, Michael, there's a bad pothole at Planet and Mars Street.
If it's on Planet and Mars, is it a crater?
It is now.
Hey, I'm a drummer. I get to do that. But we will go look at that first thing in the morning.
There you go.
Mayor, actually, can I follow up? The three lights where are we? The three lights going down Indian Bayou into the Indian Bayou neighborhood, those are still out from Gulf Power. Have you gotten any feedback on?
We had our survey technician, it was the week before Christmas, go out for an entire week at night, and he identified 146 lights that weren't working. Those have all been reported. Of course, we had the holidays, but we'll be following up with Gulf Power to see how many of those 146 they have addressed.
All right. Thank you very much. Ms. Kopp.
Nothing tonight. Happy New Year.
And Mr. Bowman.
Nothing.
And last but not least, our last opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone in the room that would like to stand up?
No, you're not going to get to it.
No, I said 8 o'clock, so we're good. So y'all just come on up one at a time, state your name, your address. You got 3 minutes to share your thoughts and ideas, and then I'll look to James and Ray, and we'll adjourn this meeting. Go ahead, ma'am.
Maya Shelder, 45 Ferry Road, Northeast, Fort Walton Beach. I just kind of want to, I think some of y'all saw me almost explode over there. I think it is, first of all, that there was a vote on something so substantial with no public comment from us after the workshop, and this would have been our first opportunity to address you guys after that. was a little frustrating. But then also to have things said that were,
Ma'am, I just want to reiterate, we had public comment before we did that, and it was on the agenda, so you could have weighed in
okay,
prior.
that's fair.
Okay?
That's fair.
All right.
Okay. But to have some things that were said that were just mischaracterizations of what is the actual truth. The application, the 3 people that applied were able to get the application on the city website. I mean, it's not like we were hoarding them or anything. They were available on the city website. Then we had the first reading of the extension of the moratorium, I believe was in the middle of October, end of October. The second reading was on November 2nd. That was the final reading. The application, the new application, was not made available to us until December 4th. Well, then we were having a workshop on December 14th to discuss the said application. And then we didn't get any results from said workshop until tonight. So to have it characterized that, we're lollygagging somehow, we weren't. We were waiting for results from what the council decided that we would all have a discussion and get results from. To extend it 2 more months basically just puts us back where you decided in November that you were going to give us 2 extra months, because we're getting the answers today, correct? I mean, we really are just finally getting answers from the council today on the application process, which now only gives us, you gave us 2 more months. You gave us the 4 months you originally gave us in November, but we didn't have an application to even file. So it's frustrating, I think, on our end to kind of just it be played back and forth like that for us. And then I do have a question for an application with so many moving parts, and this is for staff. I'm still waiting to get my 1-page BTR back that was submitted in September. And that was 1 page. So it's January, and these other applications have so many moving parts and so much that has to be verified. A BTR is just one, it's a box that you check.
Have they let you know, is it because it's incomplete, or is it just taking this long to process?
I was told in December that they were running behind. I was told December 4th that they were still working on it. It was in process, but they were just really backed up. So, I mean, from a business owner's perspective, a 1-page has taken since September, and I haven't heard anything, and I had to inquire about it. No one from the city reached out. I inquired what's going on with the BTRs, and I was told they were running behind. So when I'm about to submit 2 15-page applications, and I'm told, supposedly it's going to be done with COVID in a certain amount of time, it's concerning to me. It's definitely concerning to me.
Staff, can I request that you all look into BTRs that are outstanding and send us, council, an email of some sort, or report back why there might be some that are taking this long to process?
And then I also have a question. Is there, I would assume that last year's issue had something to do with COVID, which that's fine. Is there a COVID contingency plan for this year should applications and staff be sent home for weeks or months at a time? Is there a contingency plan? Because, as we all know, people didn't stop coming here, just government stopped moving quite as fast, and paperwork stopped moving quite so fast. So is there going to be a contingency plan of like something documented that if there's some sort of shutdown, or if offices shut down, because it's not like the governor has to shut you guys down. If a case of coronavirus breaks out in this building, staff has to act appropriately, correct? So if that happens, is there some, is there a,
some protocol?
It's already happened multiple times.
They're all immune.
Okay, well,
we're good
nope.
for 6 more months.
I think it's 3. I think it's 3. But, I think those are concerns where it's taken so long just to get one piece of paper back, and then we have things still going on with health-wise in the community. it's troublesome to me.
Myra, have you put in almost everything else except the BTR? I mean, are you like, has your paperwork now, or you're like, you waited for this night to finish your paperwork?
I did wait for tonight to see, because
So-
I was really hoping that the council was going to come through for us and do
Well, when
the
they start this
affidavit.
process, will they be like, okay, they're in the process, they're good to go, so they're kind of like in a temporary authorization situation? I mean, how is that going to happen, you know, if you guys are going to take a month or two? Are they going to be like, you're set, you're already processing, we'll let you know what we might need or what you didn't get done?
As far as your enforcement aspect, if they are working with us and they are working through, you know, doing what they're supposed to be done and they submitted their paperwork, we'll work with them. But if they drop off the radar and they don't talk to us or don't submit the proper paperwork, then we're going to have to, you know, get some compliance action moving.
So
But we're
between this
pretty-
meeting and, so Joey, between this meeting and our meeting on the 19th, if these folks that have waited patiently until we made this decision tonight, now they've got to use this new form, if they've submitted to you and continue to work with you, they're in good graces. Is that what you're saying?
As long as they're working towards compliance. Now, if they're going to drag it and keep dragging it out and make us where we got to go hunting them, then, you know, that's a different story. But most of them, they'll do the right thing.
Well, to clarify, we have until April 30th or May 1st? April 30th. Okay. So
Okay.
the application process I mean, it says in the application itself, incomplete applications will not be considered. So I think, has council read the entire application? Thank you for that honesty. I appreciate that. Yeah, so there's things in it that from a business perspective, owner's perspective, are if it says incomplete applications will not be considered, why submit it?
Ma'am,
And if I don't have a BTR, I can't submit it.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I would encourage you to start working on the paperwork. I would encourage you to call any of the city staff or clerks and ask them questions before you turn it in. And if you're not getting answers and responses, let us know, and then we'll find out. But I would do it earlier than later to give Mr. Forgione and all the other people in the departments the ample time, and just don't worry about the April 30th thing. And just, you know, but if,
I've turned mine in
ask
early
the
every
questions
year.
before you turn it in, so you don't have to worry about the incomplete paperwork.
I've turned mine in
Sure.
early every year,
Okay.
but my
I
point
think,
being is
we're trying to make
I
some
don't have
movement here.
everything now.
And I think we're trying as best we can, but hopefully you'll find success soon.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Destin, I know you want to weigh in.
One comment. I believe we're open 4 days a week now. Should we, on a temporary basis, open 5 days to get this glut through?
I think that'd be appropriate.
Well, I will ask the staff to bring us a recommendation back at the next meeting.
No better way to start 2021. Go ahead, sir.
Mike Abity, 530 Harbor Boulevard. I think one of the things Mr. Braden was talking about had a lot to do with parking. You addressed the parking also. In the new and the reason for the complicated new application for this year, for 2021, was because they're trying to get a lot of parking issues taken care of. This is a landlord issue, guys. If I got a landlord that leases me 50, he's got 100 spaces, he leases me 50, my neighbor 50, and the third guy 50, I'm not privy to what's in his other leases. I just know he leased me 50, that's what I'm submitting with my application. If he's leased 150 spaces, your issue's with that guy. Send code enforcement to talk to the landlords, and I realize the new system is to get a parking thing for the entire harbor, and that's fine. I think that's a great idea. But the issue that you having, you're making it sound like the livery vessel people are abusing the situation. Actually, the landlords are the ones that's abusing the situation. That was one issue. Another issue I had, I feel we were blindsided tonight on 2 points. Number one, the majority of you that I spoke with, especially the feelings that most of the livery vessel operators got from the workshop, was that you were going to do everything in your power, and we really were going to get a streamlined application, one-page application for 2021. I guess that changed tonight. for some reason, we feel we were blindsided by that. Something else we were misled tonight was on the livery workshop update, 2 places in here said that the city manager was just going to give information to the council, and they were going to come back with more detailed information on the 19th. And then on the final page, which was kind of almost hidden, recommended motion, no recommended motion at this time. We didn't speak earlier because we felt that no motions were going to be taken tonight, no votes were going to be taken tonight. Everything was going to be addressed on the 19th, which we were going to try to get together and call you guys and send some more information to you guys on the 19th, which would have been, so imagine how we feel. I feel like I got a knife in my back, like I was stabbed in the back. We were blindsided tonight by a vote, by motions that shouldn't have been made tonight. I don't know Robert's Rules of Orders from Susie's Rules of Orders, but I can tell you, it don't smell right, guys. The third issue that I have, and I'll share with you as a personal thing, council voted on November the 2nd that we could turn in applications starting November the 2nd, November the 3rd. I turned in an application November the 3rd. I had the first application turned in. I got my application from the city's website. It was the only application that was available on the city website. It was dated 2020, but it was the only one available. I took it, I filled it out thoroughly. I turned it in that day at City Hall, okay? I have not received a phone call. I've not received a letter in the mail. I haven't received a text. I haven't received a homing pigeon notice. I have nothing that tells me that my application was good, bad, ugly. I got a notice tonight, I guess, that 3 applications, one of mine was the 3 they were talking about tonight, that it was turned down. Nobody called me and told me it was turned down or why it was turned down. It was filled out on the application, the only application that was available on that date, which council approved for me to go online and get that. So, do I have to fill out a new application? Do I have to do the complicated one? Or are you guys going to hold up to what y'all kind of guided us to at the workshop, that you're going to really try to get us in lieu of the parking issue, that's really not our issue? If that's the only thing that makes us have to do a complicated reapplication for 2021, I think that's wrong. Thank you.
Can we get Joey to comment on that, please? I'd like to hear what he has to say with your questions as far as the application.
Mike, you can stay at the podium right now, just in case we have some questions for you.
Where's that application at? Is it the correct application that they need to be filling out?
The application that is online right now is the correct application. Also, every livery company received an email with directions and the attached 2021 application season. So they've got it, and they received the email. It was sent by my AA Sharon. Sent it to every
What
one
day
of
was
them.
that, Joey?
Let's see. Stand by if you don't mind.
How long has that application been up? Is it the one that he's talking about, November 2nd? Is that right?
It's a little over a month. It looks like it was actually sent out on December 4th, if I'm not mistaken. This was
But what
sent
happened
out.
to this gentleman's application that he submitted in November?
He was advised that the information, it's not the correct application for the 2021 season. Once we got it approved, we started looking at everything, and we needed to streamline this application to make it smaller. All the information was in 5 different pieces of applications. So what we did was we streamlined it down to one application from like 15-something applications to one application form. Most of them applications, if you look at it, is information. The first 2 pages are instructions for them. 2 of them, the only reason we gave them extra on your liveries is because some do have over 100 vessels. So we give them an extra form so they have that. So, it's more that stuff is for staff and for them to just swear to.
I just want to interject.
So
I hate
the
to
new-
say, sorry, go ahead, Mr.
So the
Brady.
new 2021 application is online now, and it's been available for about a month now?
Yeah, it's been available for, December 4th, a letter was sent out. It's been up there for a month now, live. And it was emailed to all livery vessel companies.
But we told them to go online on November 3rd to fill out an application for a livery vessel.
But
We
there
were
wasn't an application up there because it was the old application 2020.
They should have taken it down. It says 2020. I'd have filled it out and thought I was in date. I think this is.
Sounds
this
like a
is bad
city
business.
mistake. Not my mistake.
Precisely why we extended it another 2 months. And we're going to work out the problems one way or the other.
Thank you.
Evening, guys. John Stevens, 4025 Indian Trail. I was actually told when I was getting ready to apply right after that meeting in November that I couldn't apply because they weren't accepting applications because of the software. So I never applied because of that, and I figured I'd be waiting for the changes of all the forms before I apply. So going back to the forms, so yes, the email was sent on November 4th. I don't know if any of y'all counted how many pages that was, but that was 10 pages. The one online is 11 pages. How am I supposed to know which application to fill out? The one that was emailed to us is missing the right to conduct business. Then another thing, are we waiting for the affidavit before we fill out these applications, or for 2021, or do we go ahead and fill out the application? Don't fill it out? So,
I can speak to that. So initially, when we went through our workshop last January and February with Livery, we discussed the application, the concerns. From those stakeholder meetings, we came up with this application. So that said, the affidavit of no change was removed this year because we have the new system, right? So whenever we remove the affidavit, that's when the concerns came, right?
but if staff or council is asking for the affidavit to come back, do we wait or no? That's for next year? Okay. Then, but I guess another question, there's no like revision number on the applications. So do I fill out the one that was emailed to me, or do I fill out the one that was online? I mean, I don't know which one to fill out.
Joey, you want to answer that one?
The one that's online is the same one that got emailed to you.
It is not. The one that was emailed to me is 10 pages long. I have it right here.
Well, then I don't know what happened there. Go online right now and you can get it.
Joey, he's saying that the right to conduct business was missing from the email. So the proper one to fill out would be the one online or the one that was emailed to you if you add the right to conduct business.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess like the big issue is like, how am I supposed to know that though? That's the issue.
Just give us a call and we'll try to clarify. That is unfortunate that went out incorrectly, but it was clearly an error that we're just hearing about now,
Well,
at
I
least
think-
as far as.
I think we need to get something out because it's great that the folks here and watching hear this and Mr. Stevens hears that, just call us but what about everybody else? I think we need to
Yeah, I
send
agree.
it out and say, this is the correct application, make sure what you have contains this, just to try to get everybody on the same page here, because it sounds like there's 3 different applications floating around.
Yeah, we'll send out that letter. We'll also explain the extension and we'll also explain that to send them in as early as possible. That way we can, as staff, work with the businesses to get them running. Well, they'll be running, but to get their applications complete and finished as quickly as we can before the deadline.
Kim, is there any way when they submit these that they can go into like a temporary authorization, thumbs up, they're on the, the right track? I mean, is there any way for these people to get some sort of temporary pass so that they're already trying, and it's by no fault of theirs that it could take longer to get through staff and get back to them?
I think that's what y'all's motion did in effect. They're going to be allowed to operate while the applications are being reviewed this year. I think that's kind of I'll call it a compromise that you all tried to strike, if I understand it. They get to operate before the applications are complete. Staff will be working with them as to what's missing or needs to be, addressed. And at the same time, we will be working on getting our efficient system in place for the upcoming year and our affidavit so that this is the last year we have to put them through this process.
Okay. And I guess the last thing is, at the workshops, there was the idea of a task force, kind of similar to the STRs. Is that something that we're kind of planning at the 19th meeting to be discussed, or?
I don't think so, but I think a visioning type of opportunity for our harbor, and I mean, we have the harbor capacity study, and maybe at that visioning session, we talk about a task force or something to generate, because obviously the rules in place right now are pretty set in stone for 2021, it sounds like. So, I mean, I think that would be something we should do, but maybe at that vision session, we could talk about it.
And it's open to the public, and it'll be noticed.
So please come.
Yep.
I'm actually on that committee. I'll be there. Awesome.
And my only comment, and I hear all of you loud and clear, is that tonight's actions was actually to take the recommendations that came out of our workshop to heart. The staff exposed to us as city council members and leaders of the community their challenges to get a system that's going to work for everyone, not only you as operators, but also to give the city the capability to make sure that your rights and exclusiveness, because you have done it the right way, is enforceable, and we can enforce the laws and prevent fly-by-night operators.
Agreed.
Unfortunately for you, between now and the time you put your pontoon boats back in the water in March, we're still in a post workshop situation. The whole purpose with the intergov operation and the recommendations of staff is we would like to just rubber stamp it and have an affidavit and not have to do it, but what they're saying is they got to have ground zero. They got to set the foundation in that's going to allow them to work efficiently in the manner that you're hoping we can.
Right.
Unfortunately, again, you're going to bear a little bit of the burden of that because you're going to be providing the information that allows the system to work properly. In 2022, when you guys file your permits for 15 boats or 30 boats or 50 boats, you check the box that says nothing's changed. Here's my new registrations because I got 16 new boats and I sold these 4, so take those off. And it's slam bam, thank you ma'am. You pay your money, your deal. Unfortunately, there's a difference, and I found this out the hard way before I became a mayor, is the difference between the speed of government and the speed of business. If you guys were in charge, you would think that you could fix this in 2 hours. But unfortunately, that's just not the way it works. It's just, the staff is really trying hard to put together a system that's going to benefit your industry. They heard you loud and clear. This council heard you loud and clear. And I think Mr. Destin's motion was to take everything that we've heard up to this point and do it the right way. Unfortunately, I'm sorry that some of you feel like you were blindsided, but the briefing materials were all in the briefing material of what the staff was recommending. And if you had any issues with it, public testimony was available to weigh them in before we had motions and discussion. I think, even if you feel like you were blindsided, I think in the end, we're all going to get to where we actually wanted to be. And because we can't be there in 2021, in a timely manner, that Mr. Destin's motion gave you that additional time. And I think, I hear from Joey and the staff, there is an era of cooperative intent to work through this arduous 2021 process to keep you guys in business in 2021 and make life a hell of a lot easier in 2022. That's the gist I get out of the conversations, yet I still understand your frustration, your pain. Maybe some of the criticism is just and it apparently is. Some of it, not so much.
Well, no, I agree. I mean, the thing is, I just want to make sure that we're not set up for failure. I mean, for the application to miss a document, to me, that's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's like,
We
I'm turning
agree.
in an application that's already going to fail.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
okay.
Yeah, Mayor, I would just have one comment, and the 2-month extension was an attempt to address the need for information that the staff has, but to put them on notice, we expect them to make this a lot more streamlined, and we can revisit any ordinance in this city with 4 votes at any time. And I want to watch and see how they do for the next 2 months, and if we can work these problems out and they get their information and you guys can be in business and things are great. But you know, we will address it if it doesn't come out that way.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
Sir, come on up, Greg. State your name and your address for public.
Greg Fisher, 35 Red Bay Court, Santa Rosa Beach. I just want to make a point here. All it says on the agenda is livery workshop update. Was there any other report that had actual, what we were going to talk about the update? It was just all there is, just right here. Because so it existed already. Okay, all right.
But I don't think there was a recommended motion under this. I think it was just a report from the city manager.
And plus, the public comments was before the city manager reports. It should have probably been after, so we, okay. One thing I just wanted to mention, Mr. Braden, I know you mentioned in a couple different city council meetings that some operators are just straight out liars. I mean, it was what you said, and maybe there's some truth to that. But when you're an elected official, the staff here, what you say matters. I have kids, I got family, John has a family, some of us have families. And when you say things like that, it's implied sometimes that we're all liars. So I just want to recommend that not to classify us as liars, because we're really not. And how many times have you filled an application out in life and you just made a mistake? We all have, multiple times. And there are some that...
Not that I've seen, sir, and I've
Yeah.
witnessed it, and I said some are, and I meant what I said. And if I meant that all you guys are, that's what I would have said. But I knew that some of them are because some of the applications they submitted was a flat-out lie, and they knew it. There's no way they did not know it.
But when you say some, it couldn't be implied that
Yeah.
John, right?
Some of them lied.
Yeah, some of them are. So I think if you're going to call them out, say it by name, because otherwise it's implied that we are all liars. And we're trying to improve our reputation here. I mean, that's why we're kind of fighting back, and I feel like we are moving the needle a little bit. Yeah, I'm just saying, heck, I mean, but if you say some,
We
it's
don't
gonna
want more
imply it's all.
billable hours. He's trying to be
Yeah.
nice when he just says that.
But, you know, in the words of Patrick Swayze in the movie Roadhouse, be nice. Until it's time not to be nice, right? And that goes to the city as well. Some of us are not going to always do the right thing. And I understand, city, go after them, right? But there are a lot that are trying to, and help us do the right thing. Help us, move us along. If our applications are incomplete, call us, and let's try to get it right. Instead of, I feel like I forget the gentleman, Joey, I don't forget his last name, but he went on to talk for a few minutes about how, no one's filled out the application, kind of berated us in a little bit, that we're not doing our part. But like Maya said, we wanted to wait until the workshops and everything was completed before we did it. So I feel like, we couldn't defend ourselves at that moment because it was being discussed, but those are the type of things that really frustrate me and frustrate us. So I just want to make that known. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Any other comments? James online?
No, sir.
Okay, Ray, none? And Marcy? I thought you, oh, no, that's right. You came up at Ms. Ramswell's recommendation.
Marcy Bell, 3 Gulf Breeze Court, to follow up on my email that you discussed. The only other thing that I would like to add to that is apparently that contractor has a reputation in town of starting projects and not completing them. So this is not abnormal from what I understand. And I would suggest that if he's going to pull up 8 pieces of concrete and leave them open for 2 weeks and make it a safety issue, then he should not be able to cut up 2 more additional before he has filled in the other 6.
Michael, can you address that with your contractor?
I'm not pointing the finger at Michael or that department.
We've given Mr. Hayes a set of concrete to remove and replace that was damaged. We, in an effort, I guess, for efficiency's sake, you want to go ahead and fill up the concrete truck and get as much done in one trip as you can. And if that requires 8 panels or 10 panels or 15 panels, that's what it is. So that one truck makes one trip.
I'm not, this isn't about him or his department. If you pull up 6 or 8 panels, then pull them up when you know the weather's going to be nice enough for you to turn around and fill them back in within 48 hours. 2 weeks tomorrow, they will still be open. And it is a safety issue in the city of Destin because they pulled them up on the 23rd, which was a Tuesday.
I waited 2.5 weeks for my driveway to get concrete, even my personal residence. It's hard. It's a very hard process.
That's your
Ms.
personal
Bell.
residence. We're talking about the city right away with
Main
public
Street,
sidewalks.
Main Street had, you drove by them every day. It took about 2, you did too. It took a while. And sometimes I think it's out of our hands.
The
As long as they have cones
sidewalks
up,
were
right?
safer when they
But
were still in place
a
before they were
process.
pulled up and left open.
The problem is getting the concrete. And the contractor has no control over it.
They make the arrangements to get the concrete.
It's
They
kinda
know they're
like,
getting it tomorrow.
we'll be here Thursday, and the following Thursday, they show up. That's just the way it is in contracting and construction. It's
Right.
not
I'm
always
ju-
that way,
No, but I'm just saying.
I'm
if
not
it-
making excuses
No,
for
no,
the
I'm
bill.
just saying that it is a safe, it has been a safety
But I wouldn't tear
hazard.
anything up 2 days before Christmas. That probably wasn't too smart. Thank you, Marcy. Appreciate it. We have no comments from James. We have no comments for Ray, so this meeting is adjourned.